Hello, a very good morning. Gambling takes over the election.
Cabinet Minister Alistair Jack admits to betting and profiting from election bets.
A non-Labour candidate is caught betting against himself.
Breaking overnight, Julian Assange walks free after pleading guilty to the US espionage charge.
The king and a reduced royal family host a lavish banquet for the Japanese emperor as he begins a state visit.
GB News Breakfast.
And we did it. Breakfast wins at the Trick Awards as GB News claimed 3 top gongs.
And in sport, England not quite as good as us. One story in town, the good, England go into the last 16 of the Euros unbeaten. The not so good, dull, uninspired, scoreless draw against the 57th ranked country in the world. Next Sunday, well, it's this Sunday, 5 p.m, Gelsenkirchen, but we don't know who we're going to be playing against yet.
Temperatures could reach 31 Celsius in a few spots today, but it won't be hot everywhere, and it all comes to an end tomorrow. I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
So, 1 minute past 6 o'clock on this Wednesday morning, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Not just GB News Breakfast, but the award-winning GB News Breakfast. Thanks to you. In your hordes, you voted for us at the Television Radio Industry Club yesterday, and we walked away with the gold. There we are.
Yeah, we won it last year, and I think there was a bit of pressure this time because it was so unexpected last year, and this year there was a question of can we do it again, or were we just, upstarts last year? Now, we're holding the title. So, really proud of the team. Such a tiny team, such hard work goes on behind the scenes. Big shout out to everyone, and I'm talking about the directors, the producers. Everybody gets up in the middle of the night and helps us put this little show together.
Mm-hmm.
It's
well,
not
most
just
of all
us.
you, because without you, we wouldn't win it. So there we go.
I wasn't there, right?
You weren't there.
I wasn't there.
There's a reason for that.
I know, but I want to know. So, did you be honest with me? Did you prepare what you were going to say?
Absolutely not.
Yes,
I didn't think we'd win.
I thought of a few words, but I went up and I forgot them all. I completely forgot them all. Yeah, and so I don't know what rubbish I spoke of.
It was very good. Yeah, it was. It was all very good. So, did anybody, the other? Obviously, it's all very good that other people are nominated, but was there a?
No,
it was all very nice.
I think
it's
the
not
thing
like
is, Paul,
Anchorman.
Okay.
when you look at who you're up against, I mean, the BBC 6 o'clock news and, the standard of the opposition is so high, it actually makes the award more worthwhile.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
And it was a hat-trick for GB News. It wasn't just us. Camilla also won. Nigel also won. So a big moment for the channel.
Huge.
And just kind of a reminder, really, that the channel is here to stay.
Very
So
exciting.
thank you. Thank you so much for your vote.
Thank you. Excellent. Great start to the day. England's group match at the Euros last night.
I'll put a downer on it now, won't you?
Yeah. So came home, watched that last night, as did Paul. What's your take?
The take is it was a little bit better, but not a lot better.
No.
It was just dull. It was just... Again, they just don't know what the best team and the best way of playing is. There's changes halfway through, and then the midfield was changing, and then there's little sparks. But by now, we should know. We should have a team that we know exactly how they're going to play. Everybody knows what their job is, but at the moment, it's just a little aimless. So,
yeah, I mean, let's be honest, the quality of the opposition, I mean, Slovenia, they played a good game, but they're ranked where in the world?
57th in the world.
Yeah, where's England? England.
Oh, would be top 10 easily. We're even top 5. I don't know what the number is, but the thing is that you'll get people go, oh yeah, but Slovenia, they defended well and they were very plucky and this. But the thing is, they are number 57 in the world for a reason, because most people managed to beat them. England have beaten them 5 out of 6 times. Normally, it should be no contest. By far, the lowest ranked team in our group. But we just can't seem to get past these teams. So maybe when things get better, I mean, it sounds weird, but when you play better teams, you tend to play better. So maybe that will suit us.
Is it just England that has this problem, or do other countries face...
France having the same problem
good,
as
because
well.
I just feel like every championships we go into, whatever it might be, it's like, oh, we're choking. It's like the pressure.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because we just have such fantastic players that play for so many clubs and big teams that they're just not cohesive when they come together.
I wish we could work it out exactly the reason. Do they choke? Do they feel the pressure? I was speaking to players, ex-England players last night while I was watching the game about this and saying, you know, did you feel the pressure? And usually it's like, well, when you're out on the pitch, it's not like that. But there is this weight of expectation. And I think the press is not as bad as it was in the past. It was a lot worse.
Was it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was, if you think of Graham Taylor, and then there's the turnip instead of his head. It was awful. So they're not quite as bad as they were, but there is this expectation. I don't think that's the problem at the moment. I think the problem is the way they're playing. They've got to do better because they're great. They're really good footballers, and they're not performing as well as they should be.
Which points the finger at the manager.
You'd think so.
And tactics.
Yeah, because it's let's roll the dice, let's make a change now, let's put someone else on, let's put Cole Palmer on, who people have wanted to play, and he looked very good. So I think going into the next game, whoever it is that we play on Sunday, then he'll probably start. It'll be a lot different from the starting lineup that began that first game last week. So it looks like it could be the Netherlands. So I think it seems likely it could be the Holland, which is going to be quite the ding-dong,
well,
as they say in Amsterdam.
Tell us more at 6:20.
I will.
For the moment, thank you very much indeed, Paul.
Right, let's turn our attention to politics then, and Gamblegate is continuing. The Labour Party now embroiled in the scandal after suspending Kevin Craig, a candidate who bet against himself in the election.
Now, this comes as a fifth politician is implicated for the Conservative Party. The Times has suspended Laura Saunders and Craig Williams so far.
Well, with all of that in mind, let's take a look back at what politicians have been up to over the last 24 hours.
I was the chief prosecutor for 5 years, and therefore I prosecuted many cases involving the use of knives, and I've made it my personal mission to deal with this. It is a moral mission so far as I'm concerned.
There's a cohort of people currently in France who are waiting for Rwanda to be taken off the table before coming over here, and these quotes in the Telegraph make it really clear. I will not go until the day they make the right decision to destroy Rwanda. I am looking forward to a new government. If things change, I will go. That is a direct quote.
With this lot behind me, waiting for a Labour government, were they hell? As over 128,000 people have come, 90% of them young men, many coming from war zones, from areas plagued by terrorism, gang crime.
Not before time. I'm surprised it took them so long. You know, when someone knows something is going to happen and then places a bet, I think that's just immoral. And we didn't need to wait around and debate it. The Prime Minister and the Conservative Party should have realised that straight away.
Well, let's get the thoughts this morning of the political correspondent for The Spectator, James Heal. You could say that the Labour Party have put the Conservatives to shame in their swift response to all of this, but slightly different gravity of allegations, arguably. Bring us up to speed on the kind of two different approaches and where we are in this ongoing saga.
Sure. So yesterday morning, the sort of day began with the Conservatives suspending Craig Williams and Laura Sanders as candidates. This came multiple weeks after the first allegations about Craig Williams emerged, and about a week after Laura Sanders' name came into the frame as the wife of the head of field operations for the Conservative Party. So it seemed that Rishi Sunak was doing the right thing, just a bit too late after sort of days and days of questions and hostile interviews. Then in the afternoon, we get Kevin Craig. His name comes up because he is the Labour candidate for Central Suffolk and Ipswich. Turns out he placed a bet against himself in that general election campaign. Now, there's a bit of tradition, of course, of candidates betting against themselves, a sort of good luck charm going into this kind of thing. And I think
it's totally different then, in the sense that one is, to all intents and purposes, it looks like the allegation is insider trading. They had some intelligence and they betted in to favourably win money. This other guy, Craig, who actually we've had on the Kevin, sorry, who we've had on the channel many times and reviewed the papers with us, Kevin Craig. He sounds like he's done something stupid, but he was guilty of, what was his phrase in his statement? Conspiracy of stupidity or something.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a key thing about, do you actually know the outcome of something before you bet it, or is it sort of up to events to be influenced and such? So I think that, you know, he's obviously had to stand down now because of what Keir Starmer's been talking about. He's been going so hard on the story. He said earlier last week that if I had a candidate like this, their feet wouldn't even have touched the ground. So they want to take tough action. They suspended him now. But really, I think this moves the whole debate into different territory, which is that, is it going to be about candidates placing any bets whatsoever? And now Alistair Jack's name has come up in the frame as well.
Right, so he is a cabinet minister. Yeah. He's admitted having placed a bet, not during the period that is under suspicion, and he's denied having any knowledge at all of when the election was going to be called. But he did profit to the extent of £2,100 from one of his 3 bets that he placed.
So this is the joke he made to the BBC. We don't actually know, I believe, the extent to which his earnings from this actual bet he did place would be. He said he placed 3 bets before the election was called in May in last month, in the period of April. So this is before any decision had been made. Now, he's consistently saying in Whitehall, according to reports, that there should be a kind of June or July election for more than a year now. He thought it was the best thing to do. And he pointed out he made 3 bets. He lost 2 of them and he got one of them right. And he said this was before any kind of information had been made, any decision had been taken.
So what do you think, Eamonn? I suppose we can put this out to the audience as well this morning. Should any politician, very serious matter, serious job, people dealing with the biggest issues of the day, be betting? Or does it not matter?
Doesn't annoy me in the slightest. It happens in everything. It happens in business.
Footballers can't bet, though.
They can't, but they do. Right. So everybody does it. Everybody's up to it. Everybody gets inside information. Hey, can you give me any inside info on that horse? What's the word there? Well, I heard the horse was sick last night. It'd be worth not betting on it or whatever. It's life. I don't know. Everybody gets so uppity about this sort of thing, but it doesn't annoy me to the same degree.
I have to say, my position is I don't mind a casual bet. Anything that leads to any implication of insider advantage, I think, is foul play and it's not OK. Yeah,
and I think that, you know, it's about, do you have actual access to sort of privileged information, really? That's the key thing, you know. And is it something that's fixed, like a timing, or is it about a result, which is certainly not clear? Yeah,
and James, if you can determine that result, then that's wrong. If you can say, well, if I don't do this, I will lose and I will win.
I agree.
That's different.
Absolutely.
That's pretty spot on. And I think also, you know, there's so many different political races. I mean, what about a campaign across the country you have no control over whatsoever? I think there's a real kind of... We're getting everything mixed up, and I do worry about a little moral panic here, perhaps.
OK. James Hill, for now, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. The Emperor and Empress of Japan received a royal welcome as they began their 3-day state visit.
Yes, the couple were greeted with military pomp and pageantry before embarking on a royal carriage procession to Buckingham Palace, where the King hosted for them a lavish banquet.
Joining us now, royal historian Martin Whittock, to tell us how significant all of this was last night. Martin, good morning to you.
Good morning. Well, it was very important because this visit has been put off for a number of reasons recently. Obviously, not least of all, the illness of the King. But it's gone ahead, and it started actually on Sunday. Actually, they flew into Stansted Airport, or Saturday, sorry. They flew into Stansted Airport, but the official visit started yesterday. So it's very, very important because the ties between Britain and Japan are important. Trade ties, historic ties, of course, overcoming the conflict of the Second World War and building friendly relations since the Second World War. And of course, with tensions mounted with China in the South China Seas, for example, our relationship with Japan is particularly important. So this is important both on a grand ceremonial level, but also on the level of our trade and diplomatic relationships with Japan, particularly given tensions in the Far East.
I don't know if I'm breaking any protocols here, but Stephen Dixon, who we were with yesterday, because we were at some awards in town, happened to be at Claridge's yesterday morning, where the Emperor and Empress were staying. And Prince William came to meet them there and overheard their conversation in the lobby, where there was a big crowd of the public there, and said that he thought Prince William... Wales did a fantastic job in terms of soft diplomacy. Overheard him talking about the recent earthquakes that they've suffered, a number of sort of political issues, but in a very gentle sort of royal way, really. And he was just intrigued, really, to have overheard some of that conversation. I suppose sometimes we underestimate the power that the royals have in these sorts of situations.
Yes, they are a really, really important part of British soft power. In fact, the king, speaking in Japanese to Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako, greeted them in Japanese as "Welcome back to Britain," and also made quite a playful reference to Japanese contributions to popular culture, including the Hello Kitty brand and mentioning the Pokemon phrase, "Gotta catch 'em all." So obviously his speechwriters have been working quite hard and overtime on that. But as you say, the key thing is how this develops relationships between the two countries. And it shows the importance of these connections between heads of state and the real importance of the royal family in this kind of soft power. And as you mentioned, Japan has had some real problems recently with the Noto Peninsula earthquake, and the lacquerware box that was presented to the King and Queen was from the Noto Peninsula with a type of design which is traditionally associated with Wajima, which was affected by the earthquake. And in a playful response to this very serious connection, King Charles then gave a pair of silver and gold beakers and a bottle of Glengarioch whiskey. So
very nice.
On one side, a reminder of the serious things that connect us, but also a reminder of the warmth as well that now exists between Britain and Japan. And I think that's the important thing. And of course, Rishi Sunak was there and Keir Starmer were there, but they were not on the top table. That was occupied by senior royals, including the King, the Queen, and Prince William, although of course the Princess Royal was not there because she'd had that injury in the Cotswolds and was in hospital in Bristol. So it is a really important reminder of how the royals act as ambassadors for the nation on such a range of levels, including that charming conversation that was overheard referred to earlier.
I don't know if we've got any pictures of the banquet itself, but I believe the Queen was wearing a new, I think the phrase is a garter, you'll know more than I do about this, with a portrait of His Majesty the King on it. If you're able to shed any light on that.
Unfortunately, I'm not so well placed on that one. I did see photographs of. Oh, there we are. We have this photograph
on
of
the bow, apparently.
Beautiful blue sash with a portrait of the King. Actually, I believe on a brooch that secures it on the top left-hand corner. You might be interested to know the dinner included poached langoustines. I don't know whether you'll be having any langoustines for breakfast today. A basil mousse. Cornish turbot, quail eggs, and sorbet and peaches, which was a little grander than my supper last night. Although I enjoyed my supper, it didn't quite run to poached langoustines or Cornish turbot. But then, of course, I wasn't at the palace in the presence of the Emperor and Empress of Japan.
Nothing but the best.
Martin, whatever you're having for breakfast, enjoy it. You've whet our appetite. Thank you very much indeed. We'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're going to have a look at other stories coming into the newsroom on this Wednesday morning. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has walked free after pleading guilty to an espionage charge. The court in American territories of the Northern Mariana Islands dropped the 17 other charges against him. Mr. Assange admitted to his role in the conspiracy to violate the Espionage Act and was sentenced to time already served.
A former engineer who worked on the faulty Horizon IT system claims the Post Office tried to put words in his mouth when he attempted to disclose concerns he had about the software. Gareth Jenkins was with Fujitsu for his whole professional career and was regarded as a distinguished employee up until his retirement in 2015. He said that he's truly sorry for wrongful convictions.
A portrait of Sir David Attenborough has been unveiled by the Royal Society, painted by Jonathan Yeo. He also did the King's first official portrait since the coronation, and this marks the broadcaster and naturalist's 4 decades as a fellow of the Society.
Well, there we go. What did you make of that portrait?
I think he's a very good artist, very talented guy.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I think it's great to see Sir David Attenborough celebrated. I think he's a national treasure, and I don't know how much longer we'll have him for. Shouldn't say that, but I do worry. I know, but I do worry that I look at it. Well, how old is he now? What, 96, something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
You know, he is incredible. I'll look up his age, but he is amazing. And just fingers crossed he's well. And anyway, I'm digging a hole.
Nice thought.
Let's move on. Sorry.
Who knows how long any of us will be around
Don't start
involved in all of this. The good weather will be around for at least another day.
Oh, well, that's something.
Aidan McGivern will tell you.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, welcome back to your update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to be another hot and sunny one for many of us today. Cooler for some, it's not hot everywhere. For example, parts of Scotland, northern and northeast England seeing a lot of cloud first thing. Has some mistiness, continues to affect the east coast of England through much of the day, so it's going to be cooler here. Likewise, western Scotland, Northern Ireland, a sunnier day expected compared with Tuesday, but it's going to feel a bit cooler. Meanwhile, across the rest of the UK, certainly across central and southern parts, temperatures will rise rapidly through the morning. 31 Celsius, the afternoon hotspot somewhere in the southeast or central England. Mid to high 20s widely elsewhere, but as that heat builds across many parts of the UK, we could see some heavy showers developing, certainly over the Grampians, the far north of Scotland, perhaps one or two spots over the Pennines and the Welsh Mountains could see a heavy shower into the afternoon and early evening. Cloud returns to western areas. Northern Ireland seeing thickening cloud through the day and some outbreaks of rain, and that's the sign of a change on the way. Later Wednesday and into Thursday we'll see breezier and cloudier weather push into Scotland, Northern Ireland, western England and Wales, and a band of rain moves in by dawn. That's going to turn heavy across the far north of Scotland, certainly across Orkney. Could see some heavy bursts or even some rumbles of thunder, but it's light rain elsewhere. Meanwhile, a very warm, muggy night expected across central and southeastern parts. Some early sunshine to come for the Midlands, eastern and southeast England. Temperatures again rising quickly through the morning. But during the morning, we'll see this area of cloud and light rain move through, and that's going to limit the increase in temperatures. And by the afternoon, 26 to 28 Celsius more likely in the southeast. Back towards average elsewhere, windy in the northwest with outbreaks of heavy rain.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Just a little nice thought before we get to the final day, which is not far away now, of our summer giveaway competition.
£15,000 in cash up for grabs, as well as a whole host of treats. But those lines, as Eamonn was saying, close on Friday at 5 o'clock. So make sure you're in it if you want to win it.
It's the final week to see how you can win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Wouldn't that be nice to set you up in time for summer? You've just got 2 days. Make sure you get involved.
Good luck to the England football team, because they're going to need it. Next stage of the Euros ahead, and Paul Coyte will be analysing that next.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex, and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News, weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said storm. You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but actually it's about you.
And we won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear
all sides
as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's election channel.
Looking back now at the England game last night in the Euros, Paul was watching it intently. I haven't got anything to say, really. I mean...
Actually, I sort of watched it intently, but I nod off a little bit.
It was a bit of a yawning glory.
It really was, yeah.
But the thing is, it's substandard opposition. I mean, people can make out that, you know, Slovenia or Brazil or not, but they're not.
No, they're not Brazil.
They're not.
They're Slovenia. They are. You're absolutely right.
And they're 57th or something in the world.
Correct.
So... how would you sum it up?
Uninspiring, slightly better than it has been. I could try and look on the bright side and say, well, you know what, we're in the knockout. You know, we're in the knockouts now. We're in the last 16. We play on Sunday. But it's just, everybody's feeling very frustrated. I was at it was like a party for it yesterday with Alan Smith, the ex-England and Arsenal player, and we were talking, and it's like everybody's like really wanted something to happen, but it just didn't. And it just didn't. We just couldn't score. And this is Slovenia. We should be.
But why does this feel familiar? Why do I feel like we always do this?
Because
is that a bit unfair?
that's what happens with England.
It may be the way that
years and years.
It's not knockout. I mean, it's like the Champions League, boring as hell. You know, when the group stages, and then it only becomes alive when it gets to the knockout.
Because let's not forget that England had qualified, so they'd gone into this game. I'm not going to make any excuses for what we saw or what we didn't see. But it didn't really matter. I mean, the most important thing was that they did finish top, because should England not have won and then ended up second, then would have had to play Germany, and I don't think we're ready for Germany yet. I really don't think we're ready for Germany yet. Again, it just needs to build. It needs to build. I just wonder when we play a better team that maybe things could look better.
And are we ready for the Netherlands?
I just don't go for that.
Do you not?
I just do not go for that. So we're saving it to play a better team. We're not ready for Germany. We're not ready for Slovenia either.
Let me ask you this, though. When you'd played golf, if you played with a bad golfer, did you play bad and then you played with a good golfer, you found yourself playing a little bit better? Did that ever happen?
No. Because the good golfer would probably beat me. So therefore...
But the game kind of raises a bit. And also... I imagine that other teams that would be maybe... I mean, see, the thing is, France haven't done very well either. I mean, they drew with Poland yesterday. Poland were out. So there's other teams that are also wobbly like we are and waiting for something to kick on.
But are we ready for the Netherlands?
I don't know whether we are ready for the Netherlands, although the Netherlands were beaten yesterday by Austria. And there's Austria, who also a surprise package. People didn't expect that. But Ralf Rangnick, of course, Eamonn would know from Manchester United and his Gegenpress, which is pushing everybody forward. What we'd love England to do, is working really well with Austria. So they beat the Netherlands yesterday.
Look,
so everything's it's all in the balance.
I tell you, there's another thing. I mean, football's ruled by money, and you know, tournaments from UEFA, from FIFA, from whoever, anybody and everybody wants a slice of what's going on.
Yep.
And really, the product isn't good enough. End off. It's not exciting. It's not the way football used to be better. Football in the 70s and the 80s was a much better product than it is today. Why would you not say that?
I think there's personalities that we had in the day.
I think you've got loads of people like Pep Guardiola who come in and dullify the game. Guardiola's a genius, but they're all, Arteta at Arsenal as well.
Sideways, pass.
Come on.
It's like England yesterday had this huge amount of possession, like 70% possession, which is all very well and good, but it's
they don't
boring.
do anything with it.
It's boring because it's like, well, I'll pass to you, you have it back again, and it's like, it's goals that count in football matches, not possession. But anyway,
and and flair players, the way you were able to have, like say George Best, of this world, just rip a team apart. Things would change. He would lose possession, and that wouldn't be tolerated today. I mean, lots of players from those eras wouldn't survive in teams today. But I just think, as a product, it's not as good a product as it was, say, in the 70s.
It needs to be exciting. Now, when we think of exciting, do we think of Gareth Southgate? I don't know whether we think of excitement. But
and I think of excitement, I think of you.
Well, you know what? That's why I'm likely to be the next England manager. Look, this is me, and there we are, and I'm being as exciting as possibly can. Now compare him to my predecessor, Gareth Southgate. This is what he had to say yesterday after the game.
We weren't able to find the right pass, the final finish, but we're improving, and I didn't think that with how everything happened after the last game, we were suddenly going to be free and liberated and stick 4 or 5 goals in. Football doesn't work that way.
No, Gareth, it can work that way.
Is it? Are we there?
Sorry, kind of zoned out there.
Yeah. But if they go through and they qualify, then everybody thinks they're superb and whatever, and so it goes. But I'm not enjoying these Euros. Don't agree. I think last night on BBC One and BBC Two at the same time, there was a match.
Yeah.
No, that was earlier in the afternoon. You had 4 o'clock or so, and then the ITV had the big game later on. And I don't want to see every game in the Championship.
Oh, I do. I'm quite happy to watch them. I'm quite enjoying my afternoon. See, the thing is, Dickinson's Real Deal was running a bit. I'd seen them all before. So now to get a bit of football instead of that, I'm happy to go with that. But did you see Robert Lewandowski's penalty yesterday? So he's playing for Poland. So Poland are playing against France. Kylian Mbappe's in with he's got his mask on. He scored a very good goal. But then there was a penalty to Poland. And Lewandowski does one of the things, and I bet you hate this as much as I do. Starting.
I couldn't do it.
Just stop it.
My brain wouldn't be able to function with that. Stop, run.
Would you stop and then not get going again?
Yeah, I'd stop and then forget to go again.
Because the rules are that it's going to be in one fluid movement. So he sort of stopped, started, then it's got hit, and then missed. It was saved, and then he got to take it again. I think, for goodness' sake, just hit it in the back of the net. Stop, roll. They should ban those penalties. Stan Bowles would never have done that in the 70s.
No, you're right there.
All right, Coity, love it. Thanks very much. We'll see lots of you this morning.
I have a lot to talk about.
So more from
but
him
in those days, the Stan Bowles were the ladies' men.
Yes, of course they were.
World. But you don't go to football now and think of he is such a ladies' man.
No.
Well,
you wouldn't look at it. There's no George Best, Stan Bowles, Rodney Marshes about.
I think Kyle Walker might disagree with you.
Yes.
And he's. Yeah.
But in our day, they were flamboyant and they were open about it. Nowadays, you're caught in some sort of sting somewhere. rather.
It was better in the old days.
Yeah, do whatever you want in the old days.
Right, Coity, see you in a bit. Thanks very much. Stay with us. Still to come, we're going to rip through those papers quickly with Claire Muldoon and Lewis Oakley, and then we've got Mel Stride talking to us from the government at quarter.
We have not, have we?
We do. He's back again.
Well, I tell you.
You're going to have very short
get me a
papers
cup
unless
of
you
tea
stop
for
talking.
that one. Right.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M25 in Essex is blocked clockwise after an accident at junction 26 at Waltham Abbey, causing roughly 2 miles of queues in both directions towards there. In London, Church Road in Leighton is partly blocked where a lorry's broken down. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues approaching the M25 because of road works. On the M32 heading out of Bristol, the inside lanes closed between junction 1 at Hambrook and the M4 after an accident. In Somerset, delays are expected on routes towards Glastonbury. In Devon, the A38 is closed eastbound from Ivy Bridge to Rangerton Cross for emergency repairs after a lorry caught fire yesterday evening. Also on the A38 in Cornwall, there's an accident between the Colliford Lake turnoff and Trago Mills between Bodmin and Biscard. And also in Cornwall on the A30, there's a lane closed eastbound where a vehicle caught fire between Summercourt and Indian Queens. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Wiltshire police have arrested 2 people after they sprayed orange paint on Stonehenge.
Well, Just Stop Oil have shared a video saying it's to get the incoming government to sign up to a legally binding treaty to phase out fossil fuels by 2030. Of course, Stonehenge famously associated with oil, gas. I think the 5,000-year-old Neolithic Britons were prolific users of the internal combustion engine, and they drilled for lots of oil, so it makes perfect sense, of course.
Yes, we're going to be joined by Jill Tainer, a spokesperson from Just Stop Oil. Jill, thank you very much indeed. What on earth is this all about? This is just criminal activity under the guise of some kind of activism.
No, that's not, that paint will be washed off really easily. So it's not long-lasting damage at all, unlike the damage that is being done now by the fossil fuel industry and just keeping burning fossil fuels, putting more CO2 into the atmosphere. You're right, the Neolithic people were not prolific users of fossil fuels. They did not cause the kind of damage that we're causing now. That's all been within since the Industrial Revolution in the 150 years.
So because
this
it's
is when the damage has been done.
So because this stuff can be washed off, ergo there's no issue here. Well, Stonehenge aren't particularly happy about this. They've come out on their social media page and they say Stonehenge is protected by the Ancient Monuments Act and it is a criminal offence to damage the stones. There are also multiple rare lichen species growing on the stones that are also protected. So this isn't good for nature, is it?
I think you're getting things so out of perspective here. What isn't good for nature is the damage we're doing now, and what's not good for nature globally is not good for you, it's not good for me, and it's not good for the people watching this programme.
The People's Channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey. And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are the People's Channel, and you are the people that have made it so. That was absolutely incredible at the Trick Awards yesterday to take home 3 of the top goals.
It's unbelievable, yeah.
We're very grateful.
Actually bumped into quite a few viewers and listeners. In fact, a lady called Linda, actually it's probably a bit early for her, she said she doesn't tune in till 7:30, but she said, I was crying, I was so happy when you guys won, I voted for you. And we get more and more of that. People really feel quite passionate about this programme, so we thank you, we applaud you. This is for you as much as it is for us.
We're just glad we're representing you. Let's take a look at some of the newspapers,
yes.
The front pages. The Telegraph, first of all, leading with a Cabinet Minister claiming to have won over £2,000 betting on the general election date.
At the Times says that the Cabinet Minister who was suspended was a Labour candidate. That doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
So we'll rewrite that
The
for the next
Guardian
time.
also reports on the election betting scandal, saying that a Conservative politician has become the fifth party figure to be investigated. The Daily Express leads on Nigel Farage. He says that Britain should halt all payments to France until the small boats crisis has been resolved. He was live on Breakfast yesterday, and it was quite interesting to see that how the French escorts just took these dinghies, just escorted them right through to the English coast. There you are. There's That's the Express.
Yep, and here's the Mail, leading with Keir Starmer saying that the newspaper's readers were right about the party in 2019.
What were they right about?
Well, I guess lots of things, turns
So
out.
many things that are right in the Daily Mail, but anyway, there we go.
Well, listen, we actually, having previewed the paper review, we're going to pause and come back to it. Mel Stride is making his 6th appearance on Breakfast since the election's been announced. He is the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Good to see you again. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Where to start on this ongoing scandal relating to gambling, and now one of your cabinet colleagues involved in all of this. Why did it take Rishi Sunak so long to suspend those 2 candidates?
OK, so I think you're dealing with 2 separate things here, if I could classify like that. You've got Alistair Jack, who has made it very clear in his statements yesterday that he did not place any bets during May, which is the period that the Gambling Commission is interested in and looking at, and that he has not contravened any of the gambling rules. But in the case of the suspension of others, look, I think it was absolutely right that the party made internal inquiries and has now come to a very clear conclusion, which is that those candidates are suspended. They will not be supported by the Conservative Party during this general election. And if indeed in the course of time they or any others who are candidates are found to have broken the rules in relation to betting, then they will actually be removed from the Conservative Party. So I think the Prime Minister has been very, very clear. He's very angry about what has happened. I am deeply disappointed about a number of the things that have happened here as well, and that is why action is being taken.
So Keir Starmer showed you guys up, though, didn't he? The way he dealt very swiftly with a lesser allegation, frankly.
Well, the allegation in the case of Labour, and it's for them to determine what they do, was that they had a candidate who was actually betting against himself in an election that he is currently fighting. But as I say, you know, these things can take a little bit of time to look at and to make sure that we get them right. But internal inquiries have been conducted. The Prime Minister has been very clear as to the consequences if the Gambling Commission finds against individuals. They will be removed promptly from the Conservative Party. And in the meantime, those candidates are not supported by the Conservative Party in this general election.
And the public would 100%, I think, agree with that. There's a sense of disgust at the sort of insider trading allegations that are doing the rounds. But I want to pick up on what you said about Alistair Jack. I mean, yes, he's not involved in any insider trading allegations, but what's your personal view about somebody in a very serious role at a very serious time for this country, placing not 1, not 2, but 3 bets on the future of our country? Do you think that's appropriate, and do you think that he should face any further consequences?
So I think you've got insider information, which is clearly utterly wrong, and that is what the Gambling Commission is looking at the moment. And then you've got this broader issue that you've raised about should politicians ever gamble on anything that is political at any point, even if they clearly do not have any more information than is available to the general public. And I think that is a wider debate that probably these instances is going to surface down. I think it's an important debate for us to have. But as I say, as regards Alistair Jack, he has made it very clear that he has not used inside information. He didn't place any bets during May, which is the period that the inquiry is focusing on.
I'm asking you to have that debate. What's your own view? Was it appropriate, and is it appropriate for senior politicians to be gambling on the future of the country?
So that is a very broad question, and it covers everything from, say, somebody today gambling on what the result of an election might be in 10 years' time would be very different from somebody nearer the time gambling on an outcome around similar circumstances. So I just think it's one of those things that probably needs further debate as a more general point. But there's no getting away from the fact that it is utterly wrong if people are using any inside information in this context. Gambling on the general election. Prime Minister very angry about it, very clear about it, and we've taken very decisive action on it.
Mel, I wonder just how angry the Prime Minister is, or yourself, or the government in general, about what's going on with the French authorities. Yesterday on our breakfast show, we had Nigel Farage. He was in the English Channel, and there on camera we could see it happening. There is a French migrant dinghy and boats, and a migrant boat, and the French authorities escort it to the English coastline. Should we be paying them to do that, or one would have thought they identify the boat and they say, right, turn around, back to France now? Well, what's your view on that?
So I think the cooperation with the French is very important, and we mustn't overlook the many thousands of crossings, of course, that they do prevent, and that is extremely helpful. What we also know, though, Eamonn, from Calais is that, and the Telegraph have reported extensively on this, is that there are a very large number of would-be illegal migrants intent on coming to our shores who are simply waiting for July the 4th and the general election so that the Rwanda situation is finished by Labour, is scrapped before they come over. And that clearly shows that Rwanda is the deterrent. And this is the big point here, is that if we have a deterrent for people coming across, that breaks the model that the gangs are operating. It means that you will be swiftly removed when you arrive on our shores illegally, and that will start to bring the numbers down, just as it did with the Albania deal, where the returns deal saw over 90% of Albanians just stop coming altogether. And that's what Labour are going to destroy that, and it will be an open door under Labour after July the 4th. That's what
If I held a government post now, if I was in cabinet or whatever, I think I would be picking up the phone this morning and phoning the French authorities and say, oi, alors, zut alors, what's all this business? What were you taking these migrants across in these dinghies? Why are you escorting them to our country when you should have been turning back with them? It seems to be that this is just standard practice.
Well, you're focusing, you're making those comments, Eamonn, with great respect on the basis of a single incident that's appeared in the media. The point that I'm making is that I do think there is a lot of value in the arrangements we have with the French, because it has stopped many, many thousands coming to our shores because of that cooperation, the money we've invested, the drones we provide, the intelligence we share, and so on. But the bigger picture has got to be about deterrence. And there are migrants in Calais at the moment ready to come over, waiting for a Labour government. When they get a Labour government, that's when they'll come. And why will they do that? Because they know that the Labour government will be scrapping Rwanda, will be scrapping the deterrent, and we will see a huge surge in the number of migrants coming.
Just lastly, I want to ask you about this row between Kemi Badenoch, your other cabinet colleague, and David Tennant. He was picking up an LGBTQ plus award last night, and he said he wished she didn't exist. And she's hit back saying he will not shut her up. What do you make of his comments?
That's the actor.
Doctor Who?
Well, I think anybody who says of anybody else, and I don't care what political party they're from or what axe they have to grind, that says somebody else should not exist is regrettable.
Very well. OK, Mel Stride, thanks very much, Secretary of State for Work and Pensions.
Thank you. Good. Thank you. Bye-bye. Right, now, waiting patiently here in the studio, Claire Muldoon and Lewis Oakley to talk about what Mel Stride had to say and what's in the papers. And we were talking about the French situation, these migrants, and what Nigel Farage reported on yesterday. Mel Stride saying there, Lewis, that it was a one-off incident.
Well, it definitely wasn't a one-off incident. You know, we see the figures every day. I think the interesting thing is, so Nigel here is saying, why are we giving the French money for this? They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And from covering this story extensively over the last, however long this has been going on, the problem is they are doing something. I think it's just as soon as people are in the water, that's when they kind of say, well, that's it, off you go to the UK. But the idea is that they're stopping people getting on the boat. So with Nigel Farage, I would say, well, be careful what you wish for. Because if you cut off that money and the French say, nothing to do with us, those numbers could skyrocket.
I tell you what, is a sure bet. Nothing's going to change. They're still going to come. And they are, as Mel Stride did say, they're just banking on a Labour government to let them in.
But I don't. This whole narrative, oh, we're waiting for Labour and then we'll be in. It's they're already in now. I just think this is like the oddest thing to have come out of the election. Oh well, you know, they'll
I think
be.
the temperature of the narrative of the country will change, and I think because in my view, Labour will win the general election next week, and I think then people who will vote for them. Immigration might not be the thing that will get Labour voted. They don't seem to be so engaged at that level and they don't seem to care. If the voters, the electorate, vote for Reform or Conservative, they then will see the narrative of let's stop the boats, we'll get Rwanda on and we'll get the immigration sorted. Because there's a lot of people out there who are desperately trying to work with the resources and the infrastructure involved and available in this country at the moment. And the stark reality is we do not have enough education services, health services and everything to deal with the population that we have currently.
I agree with you, but I think the problem is we've got a Tory government and we've got a public attitude that's saying stop this. Like, this is people trafficking, we don't want it, but they still haven't been able to do it.
Yeah.
So the idea that, Labour government, it's like, well, we've had a Tory government, nothing's changed.
Lewis and Claire, what's your view, what's your take, the two of you, on this election betting scandal and the various forms that it is taking?
Well, who would have guessed that the hill the Tories would die on would be that of William Hill? I mean, you just really could not make it up, could you?
Very good. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think it's pathetic. I think 8 days out from a general election, and here we are, headline after headline, day after day, is about, sleaze and betting. And it's just one of those things. It's not even the biggest deal in the world. Do I really care if some politicians made a few quid here and there?
See, I think
But
that's
it's the principle of it. And even I was thinking this, I saw you guys introducing your summer giveaway, and I thought as someone that comes on the show, I wouldn't enter it, just out of principle. Because imagine if I won it, and then it would be like, did he win it because of that?
You're right.
Well, yeah.
So I wouldn't enter it. So the fact that they haven't got that kind of moral
They'd go to me if I entered it and won it, and they would say, I mean, it's your duty to hand it back.
Yeah.
I'd say bye-bye.
Yeah, OK. But, I mean, there's so many different forms of betting in this.
I don't think we can minimise this. Yeah, 8 days out of a general election, is it the major topic? Is it the hot potato? No, it's not. But what it does show is the feeling of the MPs. And I think MPs just don't care about us. I really don't. I don't think there's any political party out there.
The two who have been suspended were not actually MPs. They were behind the scenes in the Conservative Party. And Kevin Craig for Labour hasn't yet been elected. He was just a candidate.
But Alistair Jack might be found. He joked in a jocular fashion that he'd bet against the time that Rishi would sign the.
But there's no suggestion he had any inside knowledge at all. And then it opens the debate as we were discussing there.
In the front of the Telegraph here, 5 more police officers over election bets. One from Mr Sunak's close protection team was arrested. This is endemic. It's absolutely through the whole thread of the election campaign on both sides.
I think the Labour one is interesting, though, because I've got to say, if the Tories hadn't created this whole scandal over it, I don't think anyone would have really cared. I think people would have found that funny of like, oh, well, you've stacked it so you win either way. You'll either win your bet or you win your seat. And I bet if we went back, there's so many MPs
Did you bet?
over...
Did you just say there you'd bet if we go back?
But if we went back, I think that you would find a load of MPs have probably done this, or candidates have done this over the years.
Right. I think
you're right, it doesn't make it right. But I just don't think we would care if it hadn't have been for the election day.
I want to end on this story that's on the front of the Times, Lewis. Social media is the path to stupidity, according to the Church. I have to agree wholeheartedly. It reduces debate down. It makes people look inwards and think about themselves. Narcissism. I really hate what society has become.
I don't think many
as a
people
result.
would disagree with you. I think if you'd have told people what social media would have become and what it would have done to our public discourse, they would have banned it straight out. Much like there's a lot of worry now about AI, I think we should have had that with social media. I've always said social media is about basically giving a voice to the village idiot. You know, if in the 90s I'd have said, oh, Eamonn's Thai, that means that he wants to kick puppies, the village would have said, don't be so stupid. But now if I tweet it... Then all the other village idiots say, yes, that's right. And then all of a sudden, Eamonn can't wear his tie. And it's just nonsense things that just sort of take off and then become rules. It's odd.
Yeah, and it just also, I think, it's spilling over into normality, whereas in traditional times, British people were polite to each other and, you know,
Less
famed for it.
judgmental.
And tolerant as a society. Now, because we're all used to this keyboard warrior thing, it's spilling over into real life.
I think the speed is important too, because if I
think about it.
Yeah, if I had an issue with something you said, I could quickly tweet that to you, and then you've seen it. Whereas if back in the old days where I had to write a letter and take it to the post, I'd probably calm down by the time I got to the post box.
I do. Isabel puts me in hysterics most days, and what she believes society was. People were polite to each other and didn't bitch about each other.
No,
of course they do. They just didn't have a vehicle to express it.
Well, I think we've got worse. I think people would never say some of the things they say to people's faces now, but they've become emboldened.
I agree with you. They don't say it to your face. Social media gives them the excuse to do that. But people do not say bad things generally to your face. But there we go. We'll say lots more bad things to you too in 40 minutes' time when you're back again. For the moment, thank you very much indeed. We say good morning, Aidan McGivern.
Morning.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, welcome back to your update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to be another hot and sunny one for many of us today. Cooler for some, it's not hot everywhere. For example, parts of Scotland, northern and northeast England seeing a lot of cloud first thing. Has some mistiness, continues to affect the east coast of England through much of the day, so it's going to be cooler here. Likewise, western Scotland, Northern Ireland, a sunnier day expected compared with Tuesday, but it's going to feel a bit cooler. Meanwhile, across the rest of the UK, certainly across central and southern parts, temperatures will rise rapidly through the morning. 31 Celsius, the afternoon hotspot, somewhere in the southeast or central England. Mid to high 20s widely elsewhere, but as that heat builds across many parts of the UK, we could see some heavy showers developing, certainly over the Grampians, the far north of Scotland, perhaps one or two spots over the Pennines and the Welsh Mountains could see a heavy shower into the afternoon and early evening. Cloud returns to western areas. Northern Ireland seeing thickening cloud through the day and some outbreaks of rain, and that's the sign of a change on the way. Later Wednesday and into Thursday, we'll see breezier and cloudier weather push into Scotland, Northern Ireland, Western England and Wales, and a band of rain moves in by dawn. That's going to turn heavy across the far north of Scotland, certainly across Orkney. Could see some heavy bursts or even some rumbles of thunder, but it's light rain elsewhere. Meanwhile, a very warm, muggy night expected across central and southeastern parts. Some early sunshine to come for the Midlands, eastern and southeast England. Temperatures again rising quickly through the morning. But during the morning, we'll see this area of cloud and light rain move through, and that's going to limit the increase in temperatures. And by the afternoon, 26 to 28 Celsius more likely in the southeast. Back towards average elsewhere, windy in the northwest with outbreaks of heavy rain.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Northumberland, the A189 is closed each way between Woodhorn and Ashington for an investigation. The M5 in Gloucestershire is partly blocked northbound by an accident not far after junction 11A for the A417 near Gloucester, causing queues. The M25 in Essex is closed clockwise at junction 26 at Waltham Abbey after an accident. Diversions are often back on by the slip roads with queues in both directions from junction 25 for the A10 and from junction 27 for the M11. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. In Somerset, delays are expected towards Glastonbury. In Devon, the A38 is closed eastbound from Ivy Bridge to Rangerton Cross for emergency repairs to damage caused when a lorry caught fire yesterday evening. And in Cornwall on the A30, there's a lane closed eastbound after a vehicle caught fire between Summer Court and Indian Queens. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Gamblegate takes over the election.
Yeah, Alistair Jack, he's a cabinet minister. He admits to betting and profiting from election bets.
And now a Labour candidate's caught betting against himself winning.
Julian Assange walks free after pleading guilty to an espionage charge, and he's on his way to Australia.
The King and a reduced royal family hosted a lavish banquet for the Japanese Emperor as he began his state visit.
GB News Breakfast.
There you go. We win at the Trick Awards, and GB News Breakfast, the overall champion in that category, and we win 3 awards overall.
And in the sport world, another sterile England performance as they draw 0-0 with Slovenia, although they do head into the last 16 on Sunday, but we don't know who against yet. If it rains all day in Guyana tomorrow, sound like a spy here, England will be out of the T20 Cricket World Cup, which is ridiculous. And in Olympic news, Keely Hodgkinson could benefit from an American runner's misfortune.
Temperatures could reach 31 Celsius in a few spots today, but it won't be hot everywhere, and it all comes to an end tomorrow. I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
It all comes to an end tomorrow. Did it ever start? But anyway, the time, 1.5 minutes past 7 o'clock. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News award-winning breakfast. Getting used to this. You know, this is our second year in a row now, and I think we're going to have to buy a sort of trophy cabinet or something for the studio. We've got this brand new studio. If our boss is watching, thanks for the new set. We love it. But actually, you now need to invest in a little cabinet for us, and we can just line them up. Because we came home with 3 as a channel last night, 1 for our programme, and we had some big heavyweight programmes in our category, didn't we?
We did. We had the BBC News programmes, and I forget what else was
Good
there.
Morning Britain as well. We beat them. So,
Yeah.
you know, it was a big thumbs up for the channel.
So, you know, it's worth marking out who our opposition was and the quality of our opposition to actually win that. And it's all because of you. It's because you bothered, you who are listening on the radio and you were watching on television, you cast your vote and you made it all happen. So thank you very much indeed. We are very humbled, surprised and thankful.
Yeah, so obviously this is for the whole breakfast team. Obviously Paul Coit, who's here with us, and Ellie and Anne and Stephen, and then all of the team behind the scenes, because we're a small team, really. We definitely punch above our weight, though, and I think, you know, there's a lot of hard work goes into putting this programme together. 3.5 hours every day, non-stop. So thank you to everyone involved, and as Eamonn says, to you guys at home and voted as well.
I was watching it online.
Were you?
I was watching the whole thing live. And so I spent there watching it and thinking, come on, when's the walk?
Were you nervous?
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
nervous.
Well, I mean, you were there. You were going to have to walk up and do that. I was watching it before I was about to head out, and my heart's going like this, and there was this huge... I was so excited.
Oh, good, Paul. You should have been there in the flesh.
So well done. And,
thank you. Well, this
and
is for
everybody
you as well.
spoke really well and everything. I was so proud of
Like a proud dad.
I was.
But you're part of the team.
I was thinking of, you know, what to say and...
what you're going to say about me? Is that
I was. It was all there. And we went up on stage, and by the time I got up there, I totally forgot what I was going to say.
No, you were great.
I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Well, it wasn't easy to get up onto the stage, so you're probably a bit preoccupied with that, to be honest. But, you know, well done to everybody involved.
Very
Thank
exciting.
you.
Pressure's on for the third one now.
I know,
Pressure's on!
Yeah, we got a hat-trick as a channel. Can we get a hat-trick as a programme? We're just looking a bit too far ahead now.
Why didn't we bet on it?
Oh, yeah.
Why didn't we do that?
What do you mean, why didn't we?
Well, we didn't know the outcome, at least, so there we go.
Right, on that subject, the Labour Party has become embroiled in Gamblegate after suspending Kevin Craig. He bet against himself in the election.
And all of this comes as a fifth politician has become implicated, this one for the Conservatives, in the election betting probe. They've now suspended Laura Sanders and Craig Williams. But with all of that in mind, let's take a look back at what the politicians have been up to in the last 24 hours.
I was the Chief Prosecutor for 5 years, and therefore I prosecuted many cases involving the use of knives, and I've made it my personal mission to deal with this. It is a moral mission so far as I'm concerned.
There's a cohort of people currently in France who are waiting for Rwanda to be taken off the table before coming over here, and these quotes in the Telegraph make it really clear. I will not go until the day they make the right decision to destroy Rwanda. I am looking forward to a new government. If things change, I will go. That is a direct quote.
With this lot behind me, waiting for a Labour government, were they hell? As over 128,000 people have come, 90% of them young men, many coming from war zones, from areas plagued by terrorism, gang crime.
Not before time. I'm surprised it took them so long. You know, when someone knows something is going to happen and then places a bet, I think that's just immoral. And we didn't need to wait around and debate it. The Prime Minister and the Conservative Party should have realised that straight away.
Well, let's get the thoughts now of political correspondent for The Spectator, James Heal. James, this is sort of growing in intensity. It seems to be quite widespread. Are you unduly perturbed about it?
I think that there's a whole different distinction here, really, between those who actually had inside knowledge and those who didn't. The key thing, of course, is how wide is it going to spread, because we've already seen reports from the BBC last night that potentially up to 15 people could be embroiled in all of this. And, of course, that's mostly concerning by the inner circle, about those who actually knew when the election was going to be. The wider issue, of course, of candidates placing election bets on themselves, whether to win or lose, that's a much more bigger issue. I don't think it's traditionally been seen as an issue because people either want to back themselves or sort of do a good luck charm against themselves. But that would involve other candidates as well from other parties. So we wait to see how far this is going to go.
What about the judgment of Rishi Sunak in all of this? We all know he was lambasted for his D-Day lack of judgment. Was he too slow to suspend these two candidates who were accused of insider trading, given how quickly Sir Keir Starmer moved to suspend his candidate who wasn't even accused of insider trading, just for making a stupid bet?
Yes, he was too slow, and I think that's what Tory ministers and candidates have been telling me. It's really cut through on the doorstep over the weekend. If you look at polling, it's one of the two big issues for the Tories that have dominated this campaign, the other being D-Day, of course, both massive reversals, and I think they took too long to reach the decision, and I think that as a result of that, people are now ruining it, and it's going to presumably be a factor in the focus groups over the next few days.
And you said it's sort of separate from the wider debate about whether or not politicians should ever be allowed to vote on these sorts of issues. Not obviously we know and will rule out any insider trading or inside knowledge. That's clearly morally reprehensible. But what's your own view about gambling if you're in politics? Eamonn takes a relaxed view. As long as people are sensible, it should be fine. A lot of people not in the game of banning things. We should be sensible about this. But equally, footballers aren't supposed to bet on football games. Should politicians be betting on politics?
I'm more relaxed about this. I think, even a few years ago, I think it was David Davis in 2016 talking about the Brexit referendum, who said, I put a bit of money on it today. Obviously, Rishi Sunak had that bet with Piers Morgan, talking about the Rwanda flights. I think it's the key thing about actual sort of detailed knowledge about a specific thing, like when a date is going to occur, rather than about something like, you can't control, which is an election outcome, or sort of a next leadership contest, something like that.
Tonight, James, BBC One, big debate again, one of these leadership debates, Sunak against Starmer.
Yes, it's the last head-to-head, the last real chance for Rishi Sunak to try and close that 20-point gap on Keir Starmer. The Conservatives are really putting a lot of stock in this. They're hoping that this is the time they sort of try and make some headway against him, try and land some of those tax attacks that had some effect earlier in the campaign and put Labour on the back foot. But really, I think that, as you saw from Monday night, and we saw the Sun debate, they weren't actually against each other, but they appeared separately. There was very little new that was sort of made a result of that. There were very few news lines. So I think that it's going to be difficult to see what, right now, the Conservatives can do to change the dial.
It certainly seems as though Labour's getting a little bit of a pickle on this trans issue, though. The admission yesterday from the Shadow Education Secretary that trans women who haven't necessarily even undergone an operation to change their genitalia can use women's toilets. That's not going to fill women with confidence. You're concerned that Labour can't be trusted in protecting female-only spaces.
Absolutely, and you see J.K. Rowling's attack over the weekend as well, making out the issue that, Keir Starmer hasn't taken this issue properly, the treatment of people like Rosie Duffield, who raised concerns about this issue. So I do think there's definitely concerns about that, and I don't think Labour's run a perfect campaign by any means.
OK. James Hill, appreciate your time. As always, see you again very soon. Thank you. Right, the time's 7:09. Let's take a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. And the WikiLeaks founder, Julian Assange, has walked free from court after pleading guilty to just one espionage charge. The court in the US territory of the Northern Mariana Islands dropped the 17 other charges against him. Mr. Assange has admitted to his role in the conspiracy to violate the Espionage Act and was sentenced to time already served in a British prison.
A former engineer who worked on the faulty Horizon IT system claims the Post Office tried to put words in his mouth when he attempted to disclose concerns he had. Gareth Jenkins was with Fujitsu for his whole professional career and was regarded as a distinguished employee. He has said that he is truly sorry for wrongful convictions.
And a portrait of 98-year-old Sir David Attenborough has been unveiled by the Royal Society, painted by Jonathan Yeo, who, of course, also did the King's first official portrait since the coronation. It marks the broadcaster and naturalist's 4 decades as a Fellow of the Society.
Yeah.
I did check it. He is 98, which is that's a heck of an age, and he's looking good on it, and he looks fantastic in that painting. You're a big fan of the artist as well.
Yeah, I think the artist does great work. He did the first portrait, of course, for the King.
Yes, it was very red.
Very red, and I thought very inventive, very good. Good stuff there. I wonder how much one of those would cost.
Out of our price range, I reckon. Priceless.
Well, it has to be more than 100 grand, I would think.
You think?
But yeah, but nice work. But goodness knows. Now it's time to get your weather picture. We're going to go out and about and find out what it's going to be doing there today. Apparently, it's going to be a goodie. Here's Aidan.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, welcome back to your update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to be another hot and sunny one for many of us today. Cooler for some, it's not hot everywhere. For example, parts of Scotland, northern and northeast England seeing a lot of cloud first thing. Has some mistiness, continues to affect the east coast of England through much of the day, so it's going to be cooler here. Likewise, western Scotland, Northern Ireland, a sunnier day expected compared with Tuesday, but it's going to feel a bit cooler. Meanwhile, across the rest of the UK, certainly across central and southern parts, temperatures will rise rapidly through the morning. 31 Celsius, the afternoon hotspot somewhere in the southeast or central England. Mid to high 20s widely elsewhere, but As that heat builds across many parts of the UK, we could see some heavy showers developing, certainly over the Grampians, the far north of Scotland, perhaps one or two spots over the Pennines and the Welsh Mountains could see a heavy shower into the afternoon and early evening. Cloud returns to western areas. Northern Ireland seeing thickening cloud through the day and some outbreaks of rain, and that's the sign of a change on the way. Later Wednesday and into Thursday we'll see breezier and cloudier weather push into Scotland, Northern Ireland, Western England and Wales, and a band of rain moves in by dawn. That's going to turn heavier across the far north of Scotland, certainly across Orkney. Could see some heavy bursts or even some rumbles of thunder, but it's light rain elsewhere. Meanwhile, a very warm, muggy night expected across central and southeastern parts. Some early sunshine to come for the Midlands, eastern and southeast England. Temperatures again rising quickly through the morning. But during the morning, we'll see this area of cloud and light rain move through, and that's going to limit the increase in temperatures. And by the afternoon, 26 to 28 Celsius more likely in the southeast. Back towards average elsewhere, windy in the northwest with outbreaks of heavy rain.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Just to let you know, the Great British Giveaway ends on Friday. Have a goal. There's 15,000 quid in cash and all those gadgets up for grabs. 5 o'clock on Friday. Here's how you do it.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I should say a little bit later on in the programme, we've got one of our previous winners, in fact, the last winner of our Great British Giveaway, and she can pretty much tell you how incredible it is to win that competition. So I'm not sure what time that's coming up, a little bit later on in the 8 o'clock, I think, but something to look forward to. OK, the WikiLeaks founder, Julian Assange, is just over 2 hours away from landing in Australia following his release from prison. Well, after travelling to the Northern Mariana Islands, Mr Assange was sentenced by Judge Ramona Manglona to time served due to his time spent in London's Belmarsh prison, and so was allowed to walk free. OK, this ends years-long battle by the US to try and extradite him to face 18 charges for releasing sensitive documents into the public domain. We've now got Julian's brother, Gabriel Shipton, to give us his reaction to this. Gabriel, did you ever think you'd see this day?
Oh, yeah. Not until about a week ago, actually. I mean, I had faith that eventually Julian would be free, but I mean, not in this fashion. It's just been wonderful. I've been speaking to people back home in Australia, and there's a celebratory atmosphere in places like Sydney. Someone told me it feels like Christmas. So, you know, I think there's a jubilant feeling throughout Australia, as well as all the people who will be celebrating tonight once Julian is back on home soil. It's been a huge effort. Many millions of people around.
What does it mean at all? What are the restrictions going to be placed on him from here on in, if any?
I have a few issues with his signal. Oh, he's back. Fantastic. Gabriel, I'm not sure if you're able to hear us.
Yeah, he's a free man. He's a free man, no restrictions. The judge said time served. There are no other charges that are anticipated. So yeah, he's a free man, free to do whatever he likes in Australia, free to travel wherever he wants. It's a good deal for Julian. So you were obviously privy to some of the negotiations going on behind the scenes. If you started to get the impression that this might happen about a week ago, it came as a surprise to us, of course, as we were in the dark to all of this.
What changed in order for the US to suddenly drop 17 other charges? He clearly was happy to admit violating the Espionage Act as the price for his freedom. But, you know, what did those negotiations entail?
Well, I believe it was the UK courts. Julian had a hearing approved for the 9th and 10th of July, and the High Court approved that appeal based on the fact that if Julian was extradited, that he would not enjoy the same freedom of expression rights that he was entitled to in the United Kingdom in the courts in the United States. And so I believe the US Department of Justice was actually afraid of receiving a loss in the UK courts, that the UK courts would actually stand up for freedom of expression rights because of what it meant for everybody in the UK and around Europe. If they were to extradite Julian, it would mean that anybody in the United Kingdom could be extradited and not have their freedom of expression rights reciprocated if they're in the United States. So I think it was the UK judges, as well as the Australian government, who was able to come in and negotiate all those little bits and pieces, like travelling to the Mariana Islands instead of the US mainland, that really made this deal possible.
And Gabriel, you've been in the studio a number of times and talked about your brother's plight, and you'll be aware, of course, that for everybody who is celebrating his release today, there will be many who will say that this is an aberration, that this is a miscarriage of justice, that this is a terrible man. You talk about him being free and, you know, no restrictions on his freedom, but there will be concerns about his security, won't there?
Yeah, so he's going to a remote location now out in Australian countryside where he can rest and relax. I believe there will, I think he'll be safe in Australia. He has the overwhelming support of the Australian public, and he's a hero in Australia. 70% of the population wanted the government to intervene and bring him home. So that kind of support, I think, will protect him against any future prosecutions, but also that the US has said that they will not prosecute him for anything else that happened before the day of this plea deal. And the security state, actually, James Clapper, who is within the intelligence community in the United States, has said that he is satisfied with this deal, that Julian has served his time, that they couldn't really expect to get more time served out of Julian, and they have this precedent now established that they can prosecute people under the Espionage Act for publishing truthful information.
Well, those are the protections in place, but can you protect him against himself, Gabriel?
Well, Julian is a much older man now. He's been detained one way or another for the last 13 years. And I think he's ready for a slower lifestyle. He's got 2 small children. He needs time to rest, time to recuperate, time to heal from this ordeal that he's been going through. He has health conditions that have been exacerbated by his time in detention. But really, I think this is a time for celebration. We're looking forward to having Julian at home, kicking back, having a beer with him, just having a chat and, thinking about simpler times ahead. This has been a real hard slog for our family, and we're really glad that it's over.
Well, we can see that joy on your face, Gabriel. I don't know if you've had a chance to speak to him. I'm sure he's been very busy the last couple of days. But as and when you do, I'm sure that will be a joyful moment. And has he been reunited with his kids yet? Because I know he's not been with them outside of incarceration ever. They were born whilst he's been going through all of this.
Yeah, he actually has seen them inside the prison, so they've only known Julian as a prisoner. So they'll be excited to see Julian. He hasn't touched down in Australia yet, so he's pretty close. So there you go, you've got the flight tracker up there. So he is very close to touching down in Australia, and once he does, he'll be able to see his wife Stella, my dad John. I even spoke to my daughter, and she couldn't believe. She's like, "What? We can go and see Max and Gabriel, my cousins, and Julian in Australia?" She couldn't believe it.
There we go.
It's true.
It's a special moment.
Gabriel, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you very much. Gabriel Shipton, who's Julian Assange's half-brother. Thank you.
I was reading in one of the papers that there's an estimate of £5 million of British taxpayers' money spent on either having him in a high-security prison, his court costs, the security around the Ecuadorian embassy. So just, you know, on that note, the fact that he's no longer our financial responsibility, I'm sure is a relief to taxpayers anyway. Over to the Australians now to foot that bill for the foreseeable. But £5 million, it's been quite expensive. Let us know your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say.
22 minutes past the hour. Still to come, should parents pay for children, adult children, on family holidays? Would you do it? Do you do it? Talking about that next.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel. On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates.
Are you comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister?
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it? You'll have one of me one day.
Yeah, for dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Now.
Isabel Webster's just put an Instagram post up talking about our little trophy.
Yeah.
So excited, are we?
Yeah, and now you've put up a post as well, because I invited you as a collaborator.
Yeah.
Look at us collaborating
That's what I was trying to explain there. That's good. A new poll has revealed that almost half of parents foot the bill for children, adult children, on family holidays.
Yeah, the average cost being £2,500 per trip. But is this family bonding time creating a generation of entitled adults?
Let's find out from Suzanne Holder, who's an author and a journalist and a friend of the show, with a view on this. Where do you stand on this, Suzanne?
I'm proud to say that I've got 3 children, 2 stepdaughters and a son. They're all adults. And I'm proud to say that we love going on holiday together. And if I invite our children on holiday, I don't give them a bill. I don't charge them for Christmas dinner either. I think if you invite people to something, then it's quite... that you should kind of foot the bill. I actually canvassed my friends about this, and I was in the hairdressers yesterday and I asked everybody in there, and maybe it's a woman thing, but every woman in there went, yeah, we do that. I think it's
do you know, Suzanne, I'm totally with you, but I don't think it's a women thing. Eamonn's exactly the same. I think we're all unanimous in this one.
I don't really know why we're having this debate, but...
I think there was somebody who was going to come on and argue with me, but they haven't turned up, so I think we win the argument.
Well, here's the counter-argument, I suppose. You could say, number one, it puts pressure on those parents who cannot afford to take their adult children away, and there will be people who are, we're in a privileged position that if we were able to, we would.
No,
a lot
if
of
you
people
can
can't.
afford it, then what's the objection?
But if you can afford it and you don't do it, why would you do that? Well, I suppose some people would say you could be creating this generation of entitled sort of pseudo-adults who were forever attached to mama and the purse.
I think this generation are devoid of so many things. I think there's so many things they can't afford. They can't afford houses, they can't afford cars.
But don't you think parenting is all about actually making sure your children do appreciate certain things? And if you get to a point where, as they kind of get to late teens or early adulthood, and they weren't appreciating you going on holiday, then you wouldn't take them, would you? You wouldn't keep doing that if you thought that they were going to kind of be unappreciative. You would only do it if they were appreciated. They contributed in some way. They kind of helped out, bought a meal. I mean, my son's my IT expert. I wouldn't have any kind of... My computer wouldn't work at all if my son didn't do that. If I can take him on holiday to pay him back. And also, I think having kids... I mean, my kids are my favourite people to spend time with. So the fact they still want a holiday with us, I'm quite flattered by. But when they were little... We did holidays that were suitable for children. We did bucket and spade holidays. We did the things that we didn't go to New York and Vegas, which is now what last year I took my we went with my son and his girlfriend to Vegas.
Wow.
We wouldn't have done that when he was a child because it wouldn't have been suitable and he wouldn't have enjoyed it. But we had a fab time. Now he's 28, 29. So that's the difference. But yeah, you're right. If you can't afford it, that's a whole different thing. But then there are still things you can do. You can have them all around your garden and play games in the summer.
Absolutely.
You can, there's always ways of spending time. As I say, my friends all do it. Some of them take all their children and their partners for 2 weeks in Dubai, and some of them go to Centre Parks or go
about
to...
the same price, to be fair. Centre Parks isn't cheap.
For a couple of nights.
But here's my thing. If I actually try to pay, and as a proper grown-up now, I feel, I've got my own kids, I probably ought to be paying my way with my parents for things, they get offended. It's almost insulting to them as the parents that, they're pensioners now, they're in their 70s, they don't have loads of cash to splash, but it's kind of a dignity thing, and they don't want me sort of even talking about money. I don't know whether you would be insulted if your kids tried to pay. Say that again?
You're still their little girl. That's why you always will be. Your kids are your kids. I don't hold with this. Once they're 18, they're on their own.
I don't.
I had children because I wanted to spend time with them. I did when they were little, and I still do. And, luckily, I've got kids I like spending time with. But maybe that's because I've spent so much time with them.
Maybe it's those free holidays as well. Those kids are going to keep coming back for more.
And there's
that's fine by me.
I think there's a lot of parents who want to and need to give. I remember, I would have earned from a very young age more money than my father, and he used to always say to me, he always carried cash. He'd say, do you want any money? Do you want any money? And I'd say, no. I'm going like, well, I need money from you for, I earn more money. And my mum came up to me one day and she said, will you let him give you something? Because it means something to him.
That's what I mean.
And one day he said to me, do you want any money? And I said, Dad, I'd love 20 quid for the taxi. Could I have 20 quid for the taxi? He said, yeah. Is that all you want? Whatever. And it was a big thing for him to give me that. And,
I think that's absolutely right. And, it's a lovely, beautiful thing. So there we go. We all agree.
If we do, but if you are lucky enough as well, I do know that whole thing of if you've got a bit of money, then but you still make your kids kind of struggle. I don't get that either. I just kind of think, why work hard? Because that's what we're doing it for. You work hard so you can look after the people you love. I mean, yeah, these are people we'd give a kidney to. I really don't think paying for a flight to the Algarve is really that big a deal.
Yeah. There you go.
Suzanne, really appreciate it. Lovely talking to you. See you again soon. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. We've got Paul Coit right after the break, and we're talking all things sport.
We are on.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M80 in North Lanarkshire, the outside lanes closed southbound after an accident between junctions 5 and 4 from the Lowood junction at Cumbernauld to the M73, causing queues. In Northumberland, the A189 is closed each way between Woodhorn and Ashington for an investigation. In Staffordshire, the A460 is blocked by an accident off junction 1 of the M54 near Wolverhampton, causing queues. The M25 in Essex is closed clockwise at junction 26 at Waltham Abbey after an accident. Diversions are often back on by the slip roads with queues in both directions. Might be on junction 25 for the A10 and halfway back to junction 28 for the A12. In Somerset, there are delays on approaches to Glastonbury. And in Devon, the A38 is closed eastbound from Ivy Bridge to Rangerton Cross for repairs after a lorry caught fire yesterday evening. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting.
I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
You'll have one of me one day.
Yeah, for dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Look at this beauty. Ooh. Look at this beauty. Oh, put my phone down. Get rid of that. My bank card on display again. Sorry about that. Yeah. Anyway.
Never thought of being a hand model. You did that really nicely.
Oh, thanks. Shall I try that again? There we go.
There you go. Well, thanks to you.
My best feature.
Very nice.
If it wasn't for you guys watching and listening, we wouldn't have it. So thank you very much indeed. Now, the sport. I hope the sport isn't as dull as the match last night, the England match.
Yeah. Well.
What can you say?
It's a bit of that. Slovenia are ranked 57th in the world. They are sandwiched between Saudi Arabia and Paraguay when it comes to footballing heavyweights. So should we say footballing lightweight generally? But they did OK against England. It's just that England didn't do too well against them. Trent Alexander-Arnold was left out for Conor Gallagher because this midfield experiment, then that didn't work, so he came off at half-time, then tried something else. Then Jude Bellingham, he wasn't that great either. Kobbie Mainoo, Manchester United came on. He looked better. Cole Palmer looked better
lit
too.
it up. Mainoo, when he came on, he had some ideas about penetrating that Slovenia defence, and he's an exciting player.
He is, and there were signs. There's, again, substitutions, lots of substitutions. They don't really know who the best side is at the moment. We just really don't know. But Gareth Southgate, as he went out to thank the fans, see, this is not good. I mean, yes, I've always said this. Fans have the right to boo. When you go, oh, it's not right because it's not good for the... You know, you pay money to go and see it, and if you don't get entertained, you've got the right. But things started to throw empty glasses, or empty plastic glasses were thrown over towards Gareth Southgate. We don't want any of that.
Not OK.
But he was asked about it, whether he noticed that they were landing next to him. This is what Gareth Southgate said.
Are you aware also that 3 beer glasses were thrown in your direction, and that it seemed that there was also some angry reaction? And can I get your reaction to that?
Yeah, I understand it. I'm not going to back away from it. The most important thing here is that the supporters stay with the team. I understand the sort of narrative towards me, and you know, that's better for the team than it being towards them. But it is creating an unusual environment to operate in. I've not seen any other team qualify and receive similar. So I understand it. I'm not going to back away from it, but I'm very, very proud of the players for how they're operating within it.
Interesting. The way players are operating. It's very sort of business language, isn't it, around football? But
he should have condemned the throwing of items as well. I mean, he didn't say anything about that. He said, I understand it and I share their frustration. No, you don't understand the throwing of bottles towards you.
He does understand it. Of course you understand it. The football's
I don't
rubbish.
Understand it.
The football's complete rubbish.
You don't throw things.
Well, I know, but it's quite simple. I could manage that blooming England team. I could go out and you could tell these players to play in a certain way. There's no attractiveness, there's no excitement about it. And it's like, I mean, gosh, we look at the FA Cup final this year, United against City. Excellent, really good stuff. United came out fighting, they did it, they took the game to City. City came back. You know, why can't we play like that?
I think...
It's Slovenia, for goodness sake.
Sometimes sport, and especially sport at such a high level, is a little overcomplicated.
I agree.
I think that's probably what it is. And you think, go out... Well, the thing is, where does it leave us? And I'll tell you where it leaves us now. We're going into the knockout stage. So England are in the last 16. That was decided before the game yesterday. So it's 5 p.m. on Sunday. We know England will be playing, but we don't know who. Now, it's going to be a third-place side from either Group D or E.
There's another bit of nonsense. No, it is a bit of nonsense. Well, why don't you have a 7th place side?
I know.
You know, a 3rd place side. You shouldn't be in the competition at this stage.
It is right. You're right. But anyway, it's likely to be either the Netherlands, so it could be the Netherlands, or Holland, as we used to call them in the old days. You remember those days? Belgium, Slovakia, Ukraine. It could be Romania. But Radu Dragusin, this is what you could be up against. Radu Dragusin, Spurs defender. This is the genius that we could be up against if we play Romania. Would you like to see this? Radu Dragusin.
Oh, wow.
Look at this. Now, who says footballers aren't the smartest?
Wow.
There's Radu Dragusin. Now, this is a proper press conference. It's all very well hearing from Gareth Southgate. There we are. By the way, this goes on for about 7 hours. No, he's actually very quick. He is very quick.
Did we see him
finished it? Oh, it's in seconds. I think we're talking about 30 seconds. Or so.
No.
But
do you know how hard that is? Can you do a Rubik's Cube?
I've wanted to do it ever since
I sit there and I feel like
nowhere near.
A numbskull.
You do Rubik's Cube
at all?
No, I couldn't do that.
He's had
I could do one side. That was about the whole thing.
There you
go. Look at that.
It's all those coach journeys, isn't it? He sits there.
Yeah. So if that's who he plays. So anyway, the other things is that France drew with Poland yesterday. Holland, Netherlands, lost to Austria 3-2.
Oh dear.
We've got Cristiano Ronaldo playing for Portugal against Georgia. You know about all the stuff about people keep running on the pitch, wanting their photograph taken with him, which is insane. But we've got the kid. Look at this one. These are the mascots. I know
So
we've
I
seen
sent
that.
you this yesterday,
Yeah,
Paul,
I
because
love
there's the little girl whispering to her friend going, I just touched him. I think we missed the beginning of the video. If we can replay it in a minute, Tom. Sorry to be annoying. But it's so sweet because she basically touches him. Look, she gives him a stroke. And he's smirking away, laughing. And you can tell he's a parent because he looks down and gives her a little wink.
And there's more of those in the tunnel as well.
And she's going to be in love for the rest of her life, I
Nobody
think.
can believe they're standing next to him. And he's going out to play a huge game of football. And they're going, can you sign this? And he still manages to sign everything, does everything, whereas there's some footballers may not react that way. But, yeah.
A lot of footballers wouldn't react that way.
I know.
A lot of them go what's called in the zone.
Yeah.
I remember bringing my son. I was in the tunnel one day, and my son. It was about 50 minutes or so before kick-off, and my son was told he looked like this footballer, so it was a big thing to meet him. And he said, "Can I have your autograph?" And he went,
"No."
He said, "I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone."
You are kidding me.
He said, "I'm in the zone."
Can you tell us who? Go on.
No, I'm not going to tell you.
Name
who.
and shame. I think that's outrageous.
What do he look like? He looks like your son. OK, so I know who it's not. I'm just trying to work that out now.
Thank you very much indeed.
There are some though, that Kieran Trippier did that when my son was little in the tunnel, and he was there and he kicked the ball and he said, "Come on, kick the ball."
And you never forget it.
Never forget it.
Honestly, it costs them nothing, and it means the world.
It's like presenting TV. There's people that come on, they will wet themselves before sitting down, before TV. They can't talk to anybody, they can't do anything, whatever. But I don't know, it is what you make it, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Paul, see you again later, Alligator. Right back, we're back with the stories making the news right after this. Don't go away.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but it's actually about you.
And we won't ever forget that. Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
Now, more than ever, it's important to hear
all sides as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you. This is GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's election channel.
Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
So there was a calf that was run down by a Surrey police car. It's now being nursed back to health, according to the family who own the farm that the calf escaped from.
Well, he didn't just run him over once, he ran him over twice.
No, we're not showing you the footage. The footage is really shocking. But the police officer who was driving this vehicle has now been taken off frontline duties until a full investigation is completed. And I feel like I'm yet again the only person in the country who thinks the police officer was just doing his job. That police officer, probably a young guy who's got dual carriageways left, right and centre in that area. Do you know what the most popular business is in that area in Feltham?
Farming.
McDonald's drive-through. It's got a queue round the block anytime you go around that area. And all those people queuing for McDonald's who are now outraged that this poor cow had to die.
Because it's going to be at McDonald's at some point.
At some point he was going to die. I'm really sorry. If you eat meat, you can't be upset by a cow dying. I think the fast roads with cars at 10 o'clock at night in the dark, they're not expecting a cow to walk out in the middle of the night. There would have been a massive pile-up. Then there'd been, like, who knows how many people dead. And then the police would have been criticised for not neutralising the threat.
The thing is, it was because he did... why... You could see the first time, the calf could barely stand up. I just don't get why I had to then go and do it a second time.
Well, I suppose at that point it's a bit like if you run over like a deer on the side of the road, you know, and if the police they're going to kill the animal to put it out of its misery. That's all I can presume. And the guy's not trained. This is Feltham. It isn't Texas. He's not going to come out with a lasso. He doesn't know what to do.
Where did this happen, Feltham?
Feltham. I'm sure the inbox is now going to be full of people saying, "Bev, you're outrageous. You lack compassion."
No, there will be people who agree with you. But if it had been done once, that was enough. But I don't think it needed to do it the second time.
GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do. His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner
interview of the year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Muldoon and Lewis Oakley now as they go through the papers. And Claire, we're going to start with the front page of the Telegraph. NHS warning of chaos as the heat wave hits and strike actions going on at the same time.
Right, so the barometer of heat in this country, well, especially in Glasgow, it used to be taps off. And if you looked out the window and men had their tops off, then you thought, gosh, it's hot out there. Now we've got our phones, now we know when it's hot, and now we're infantilised, because if it's hot, you can't do this, you can't do that, and you can't do whatever. Tubes grind to a halt because the tracks buckle under the heat.
I was thinking this, and, you know, OK, we can sit here and say, yes, there's a point about all of this.
Yes.
And people become dehydrated and whatever it is. Yeah. But by and large, what would it take for you to be affected by the heat? And I've been sitting thinking this, and you'd have to be really pretty stupid.
Absolutely, Eamonn, really
stupid. Trapped in somebody's backyard somewhere. Where, no, Isabel, I'm sorry, no.
I'm just...
Isabel Claire used the right word, infantilised.
Yeah. I don't think we need all these warnings. I think that's a bit nanny state. But you just look at the admissions and they go up during a heat wave.
Yeah, but they're up because we're told we're sick. Nothing wrong with you.
Exactly.
You have a bit of a head, have a pint of water.
Yeah.
No, you know, it's...
You don't feel very well, sit down in a dark room, try and cool down, you know, by a fan.
Well, anyway, it seems to be happening whilst there's the strike, which is obviously not ideal.
Right, so the doctor strike obviously was called before we had the heat warning, right? But at the end of the day, it doesn't really have a massive knock-on effect because you've actually got more senior doctors in charge of the hospitals when the junior doctors aren't there.
Yes.
So it begs the question, why strike? Especially in the run-up to the general election. I think they chose these dates specifically so they would give some cachet, you know, to their cause, and it's not doing that.
The general election just takes away any effectiveness of this. There's no reason why anybody should go ahead and doing this, but it's an absolute national scandal that there is a strike within the NHS, not from the doctors and the nurses or anybody else involved, but from the politicians who
have enabled it.
It would be very interesting to see how Labour tackle this, because obviously, you know, the BMA are already on course to fall out with the new health secretary, if it is Wes Streeting.
Which is a shame, because I like Wes Streeting.
Yes, but I mean, someone's got to sort this out. They've moaned about the way the Conservatives have handled it for so long. Let's see if they can fix it.
Well look, not only that, but sorry, Liz, it is a devolved power. Health, and look what's happened in Scotland under the SNP,
and it's under Labour in Wales.
Under Labour in Wales as well. But all we've got.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, well, Labour have got a plan, apparently. We'll find out what it is in about 8 days' time, and let's see if they have any luck with actually fixing this. I do think it is weird to have called a strike when there is no government to even
Well, they wouldn't have known that when they would have called it.
Well, call it off then.
Yeah.
You know? I just don't
they
see why
didn't know about the
patients
weather,
would
but
get
there is
dragged
other things going on. You've got Glastonbury, I think. You've got so many other things going on where there will be that little bit more of an increase of the.
Well, I think there should be a weather. I think there should be more of a warning, a health warning given out for Glastonbury. All these tents set up already. You know.
Bit much. Right, let's talk about Kemi Badenoch and this row, Lewis. Doctor Who actor David Tennant was picking up a gong and he absolutely took a swipe at her, which she says actually is really poor given not only her ethnicity but her gender in the cabinet.
Yeah, so I'll just read out the quote on this because it's interesting. So he went up and said basically, however, until we wake up and Kemi Badenoch does not exist anymore, the crowd cheered, and then he kind of clarified, I don't wish her any harm. And she has basically hit back saying this is a rich lefty white male celebrity so blinded by ideology he can't see the optics of attacking the only black woman in government and calling for her existence to end. So it's really interesting the way that the conversation has gone, because you've obviously got the conversation about why do these celebrities need to get involved in politics? Some say, well, that's their right, that they can. But also a lot of people basically saying to Kemi, why are you bringing race into this? But I guess the idea is she's playing him at his own ideological game of like, hold on, why are you attacking the only black woman in the building?
Now, here's another question. Almost in totality, people under 40 can't start conversations, Claire.
I know.
So the art of small talk is dying because people under 40, 88% of them, don't know how to do it.
They feel awkward, apparently.
Lewis, are you under 40?
I am under 40.
We're turn to you because none of us can answer. None of us are.
I think
and we're chatty-atties.
I think there's two things here. I think people are more intentional with how they interact to spend their time. You know, back 20, 30 years ago, if you were at a bus stop, it was just you and the other people. Now I could pull out my phone and speak to someone I'd rather speak to. So I think there's that element of it.
That is so rude.
But you know what? I'm a talker. I'm on television talking, so I'm the opposite of this. I'll talk to anyone about anything.
I
which is
find
fine.
small talk awkward, and I'm over 40.
No, you do not.
I do. I find I'm actually an introverted extrovert, or the other way around. I'm not naturally gregarious.
Gosh, I don't think you need to be a natural orator or to be overtly, out there. But to have a chat with someone, it starts with a smile. It starts with a top of the morning to you. How are you doing? It's that interest in human beings. We're human. We're meant to be with other humans. We're not meant to exist in a solitary existence.
Some cultures are better at it than others.
I think the Northern Irish are excellent at it.
We just simply say, "What about you?"
What about you?
And then that can go anywhere. Absolutely anywhere. But it struck me when I first came to London, how people were really surprised when you held open the door from them and you said,
"Hi, they would even look at them in the eye and acknowledge
they said, "Why are you talking to me? I don't know you." Well, that's what we do.
I'm definitely the same as that. Yeah. The further north you go, people are more friendly and it feels natural. But in London, if someone came up to you and said good morning, I would think,
I think that depends.
What do you think? Have they got a knife, or you just don't know what's going on?
I think it depends which part of London it is. West London's great. West is best, and everyone's quite chatty.
I agree with that.
Don't know.
Know each other. It's lovely, really lovely.
Okay.
A Sainsbury's manager who was off sick for 18 weeks felt humiliated when he was excluded from a social media post celebrating International Men's Day, whenever that is. When is that?
I think it's in November. So this is a really interesting one because, as you kind of say, they put up this social post. He wasn't actually working, so he was left out, and now he's suing them for it. And I think it does show, on a serious point here, this is what companies are having to deal with. It is so easy for an employee to sue these days and get a lot of money because it's not capped of how much you can sue your employer for. And this is why companies have to be so careful these days with just everything they're doing.
Well, I will be very careful and include you in everything today. Thank you very much indeed, Lewis.
God, WhatsApps are encrypted.
No, we're just...
Thank you, Claire. See you again in 40 minutes' time, guys.
Here's the weather with Aidan McGee.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, welcome back to your update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to be another hot and sunny one for many of us today. Cooler for some, it's not hot everywhere. For example, parts of Scotland, northern and northeast England seeing a lot of cloud first thing. Has some mistiness, continues to affect the east coast of England through much of the day, so it's going to be cooler here. Likewise, western Scotland, Northern Ireland, a sunnier day expected compared with Tuesday, but it's going to feel a bit cooler. Meanwhile, across the rest of the UK, certainly across central and southern parts, temperatures will rise rapidly through the morning. 31 Celsius, the afternoon hotspot somewhere in the southeast or central England. Mid to high 20s widely elsewhere, but as that heat builds across many parts of the UK, we could see some heavy showers developing, certainly over the Grampians, the far north of Scotland, perhaps one or two spots over the Pennines and the Welsh Mountains could see a heavy shower into the afternoon and early evening. Cloud returns to western areas. Northern Ireland seeing thickening cloud through the day and some outbreaks of rain, and that's the sign of a change on the way. Later Wednesday and into Thursday, we'll see breezier and cloudier weather push into Scotland, Northern Ireland, Western England and Wales, and a band of rain moves in by dawn. That's going to turn heavy across the far north of Scotland, certainly across Orkney. Could be some heavy bursts or even some rumbles of thunder, but it's light rain elsewhere. Meanwhile, a Very warm, muggy night expected across central and southeastern parts. Some early sunshine to come for the Midlands, eastern and southeast England. Temperatures again rising quickly through the morning. But during the morning, we'll see this area of cloud and light rain move through, and that's going to limit the increase in temperatures. And by the afternoon, 26 to 28 Celsius more likely in the southeast. Back towards average elsewhere, windy in the northwest with outbreaks of heavy rain.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M80 in North Lanarkshire, the outside lanes closed southbound after an accident between junctions 5 and 4 from the Lowood junction at Cumbernauld to the M73, causing queues. In Staffordshire, the A460 is blocked by an accident off junction 1 of the M54, the Wolverhampton and Cannock turn, with delays towards there. The M25 in Essex is closed clockwise at junction 26 at Waltham Abbey after an accident. Diversions are often back on by the slip roads with long delays in both directions. Clockwise queues start just before junction 25 for the A10, anti-clockwise halfway back to junction 28 for the A12. On the M26 in Kent, there are queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. In Somerset, there are delays approaching Glastonbury, and the A371 is closed near Wincanton after an accident. And in Devon, the A38 is closed eastbound from Higher Bridge Drangerton Cross for repairs after a lorry caught fire yesterday.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a fabulous £15,000 in tax-free cash to ensure this summer is special. What would you spend that on? Next, you'll also receive the latest iPhone 15 and a set of Apple AirPods. And finally, £500 to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hello there. Gambling is taking over the election.
Cabinet Minister Alistair Jack admits to betting and profiting from election bets.
And now a Labour candidate is caught betting against himself winning.
Breaking overnight, Julian Assange walks free after pleading guilty to US espionage charges. He now travels to Australia.
The King and a reduced royal family host a lavish banquet for the Japanese Emperor as he begins a state visit.
GB News Breakfast.
And we only went and did it. Breakfast won at the Trick Awards, and GB News claimed 3 top gongs.
And in the sports, the good, well, England go into the last 16 of the Euros unbeaten. And the not so good, a dull, uninspired, scoreless draw against the 57th ranked country in the world. Next game, Sunday at 5 p.m. It's in Gilson-Kirkham, but we don't know who it is yet, but we'll do tomorrow. Now, if it rains all day in Guyana tomorrow, England will be out of the T20 Cricket World Cup, which is ridiculous.
Temperatures could reach 31 Celsius in a few spots today, but it won't be hot everywhere, and it all comes to an end tomorrow. I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes. This is well, you just can't wait to tell people who you are, so you just can't
not
wait.
reading the script, that's all. I'm Isabel Webster, and this is award-winning, believe it or not, GB News Breakfast.
Why? Of course you would believe it. Award is the Television and Radio Industries Club Award, and we've won it because of you for the second year in a row. So this is viewers and listeners voting for us, and bearing in mind our competition, GB News beat Good Morning Britain on ITV, BBC Breakfast News, the BBC 6 o'clock news as well. So we are very humbled and honoured to have won in such esteemed company.
Humbled, but also doing a bit of a victory lap. And, you know, we won it last year. It was really unexpected. I don't think we were expecting it at all. This time, there was a bit of pressure, whether or not we could hold on to it. And now we're even a little bit looking ahead to next year and whether or not we could get a hat-trick, because there's a hat-trick theme. The channel, of course, having won 3 awards yesterday. So some really happy members of staff here, and it's all down to you. So thank you very much to all of you who took the trouble to vote. We really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much indeed. In politics, the Labour Party has become embroiled in what's called Gamblegate after suspending Kevin Craig, who bet against himself in the election.
Well, this comes as a 5th politician becomes implicated for the Conservative Party in the election betting probe. The Tories have also suspended 2 of them, Laura Saunders and Craig Williams.
Now, earlier we asked the Work and Pensions Secretary, Mel Stride, what he thought about all of this. This is what he had to say.
I think it was absolutely right that the party made internal inquiries and has now come to a very clear conclusion, which is that those candidates are suspended. They will not be supported by the Conservative Party during this general election. And if indeed in the course of time they or any others who are candidates are found to have broken the rules in relation to betting, then they will actually be removed from the Conservative Party. So I think the Prime Minister has been very, very clear. He's very angry about what has happened. I am deeply disappointed about a number of the things that have happened here as well, and that is why action is being taken.
Well, let's get some analysis on all of this from our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who happens to be following Labour's campaign this morning in East Midlands. And, Catherine, Labour also caught up in this scandal now. So Keir Starmer pretty swift to deal with it if you compare it to Rishi Sunak's response. And yet he'll be saying today, I suppose, he has suspended those 2 candidates, as we just heard from the government there. Angry and robust response, they think. What's your analysis?
Yes, good morning, Eamonn and Isabel from the East Midlands, and huge congratulations to you and all the team behind breakfast. But yes, this has broadened out, hasn't it? Because it's not just the Conservatives anymore. So Kevin Craig, who was a Labour candidate until late yesterday afternoon, his name in the Conservative Party will still be on the ballot paper. But he will, did I say Conservative paper? I'm going completely mad. Was a Labour candidate until late yesterday afternoon, but he has been booted out now of the Labour Party, though his name will still have Labour next to it. Just another comment about him. He's also the boss of a lobbying firm behind, you really couldn't make this up, Responsible Gambling Week. He's given £100,000 to the party. We understand that that is now going to be given to charity. So Labour now, Sir Keir Starmer last week saying if it was any of his candidates, their feet wouldn't touch the ground. They'd been booted out so fast. He has acted on that. Of course, there could be more, couldn't there? So let's see what happens with that. Meanwhile, with the Conservatives, the tally is now up to 5. So we've got 2 Conservative candidates suspended. Laura Saunders, Craig Williams suspended. Conservative campaign director, Conservative chief data officer taken a leave of absence, all under investigation. And now the news that Russell George, who's a Conservative member of the Welsh Assembly, has stepped back. He's also being investigated. And Alistair Jack, the Scottish Secretary, a member of the Cabinet, not being investigated, saying he's done nothing wrong, but admitting that he had placed a bet on the timing of the general election way back in April, that he'd won on that, but that he had absolutely no inside knowledge. So what started as a scandal about inside knowledge, insider trading, if you like, has really, really broadened out. But certainly it doesn't paint the Conservative Party and even Labour now in a good light. It is cutting through with voters. The last thing that Rishi Sunak needs, only just over a week before we go to the polls.
Absolutely. Catherine, thank you. You're making perfect sense. Don't worry. Appreciate it. And thank you for your congratulations as well. Let's get the thoughts of the former Armed Forces Minister, James Heappey, who is becoming a regular on the programme. Good to see you again, Mr Heappey. Your reaction to all of this? I mean, Catherine talking about how this is cutting through now on the doorsteps, and there is public disgust, really. What your own colleague, Michael Gove, described as, you know, seemingly one rule for them and another rule for the rest of us is not a good look. Do you think it's fair that there's this distinction between those who've been engaged in betting that is potentially to profit into inside trading versus those who are just having a bit of a dabble in gambling on politics?
Well, firstly, congratulations. But secondly, look, there is a clear difference. The public are right to be outraged at the Number 10 insiders, Conservative Party headquarters insiders, the police officers who had access to privileged information and used that to place a bet knowing that the answer was already set and that they were going to win. That is clearly unacceptable.
Yeah, but was Rishi Sunak too slow to call that? You know,
probably,
he seemed to dither and delay, as is his way.
Yeah, I mean, look, probably I think he was. I think in the heat of the campaign, that was... There was no argument that said that was in any way an acceptable behaviour. A bunch of people around CCHQ, the Conservative campaign headquarters, and Number 10, who clearly knew what the date was, used that inside information to place bet for profit. Now, what's important is to distinguish that from entirely different, entirely legitimate, entirely reasonable stuff where people have just put a flutter, you know, if they're in an unwinnable seat and they put a flutter on themselves, or in Alistair Jack's case where, you know, I think he placed 3 bets or something, 2 of which he's lost on, 1 of which he's won.
Yeah, but what about those people saying this morning, you know, that is actually unacceptable? Here he is doing a very serious job when the country's facing a lot of very serious challenges, mucking around having a flutter on the future of the country. A lot of people don't find that funny or acceptable.
Well, I don't think it's supposed to be funny, but I don't think it's...
I seem to think it was a joke. But he was talking to the BBC about how much money he'd made, £2,100.
Well, if only I had the money to be able to put a stake on sufficiently big to get that return on whatever he had, 5-1 odds. But he hasn't done anything wrong. And I just... what I would just say, if I may, and I risk sounding a little bit trite, but a week tomorrow, in all probability, a new government is going to be elected. Not only a new government, but a new government elected with such a massive majority that Parliament will become almost meaningless. They will be able to do whatever they want. And with 7 days of the campaign to go, as important as the betting stuff is, as outrageous as the stuff around Number 10 and CCHQ is, there is a danger that the main parties who are putting themselves forward to form the next government, one in particular, are getting virtually no scrutiny of what they would do next Friday whatsoever, because this is sucking out all of the oxygen from the political debate at the moment.
Whose fault's that?
Well, I mean, it's it's the fault of the people who got it wrong in the first place. But there is a really important job of work for those of us who have kind of crossed the boundary and joined the commentariat, which is I'm much more comfortable being right now. You know, there is next Friday morning a new government will almost certainly exist. On the Sunday, the Prime Minister of that government will get on a plane to go to the NATO summit in Washington. Hugely important thing. There is a government to be appointed, work to be done. And this is important, and I don't want your viewers to think I'm in any way suggesting that it's not. Clearly it is. But whether or not it is the thing that should consume all of the commentary and debate so close to a major change election, I'm just not sure that's the case.
Do you want to talk about NATO a little bit? Farage is in the papers this morning saying that Zelensky should be seeking peace with Putin and trying to put an end to this, otherwise there'll be no young Ukrainian men left. Do you have a view on that?
Look, there were people in 39, 40 who made the same case. It's not our fight, it's not our war. We're going to sacrifice a generation of young Brits, to save France, Poland, wherever. I'm afraid I could not disagree with Nigel Farage more profoundly. I find his parroting of Putin's talking points to be incredible for somebody who seizes the patriotic mantle at every opportunity.
That's the same as what Boris Johnson said not so long ago.
No, I saw that. I mean, I think when Boris was talking about Crimea, by the way, comments which I would have disagreed with at the time and still disagree with now, but he was talking about the Ukraine's EU trajectory. I don't think that should have ever been used in reference to what was also an illegal invasion of sovereign Ukrainian territory when Russia took Ukraine. But the fact that Boris wrongly said that then doesn't mean that Farage is in any way justified in saying now that somehow Ukraine had it coming because they were seeking NATO membership. What I hope happens at the NATO summit the week after next, whether it pleases Farage or not, is that a really bold offer is made to Ukraine that says, look, your future is in NATO and we're going to accelerate that journey. Because where Farage and I perhaps do agree is that at some point there does need to be a peace, but it's not a peace that completely ignores Ukraine's sovereign right to recover its territory if that's what it wants to try to do.
OK, James, thank you very much indeed for that and those contributions there. James Heap is the former Minister of State for the Armed Forces. Now, the time is 13 minutes past 8, and throughout this campaign, we've been hearing from you. You are our GB News People's Voices. Let's get the thoughts now of business owner John Dimberline and retired entrepreneur Michael Decker. John and Michael, thank you both. Very nice to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you too, Eamonn, and most important, congratulations on the second Trick Award.
Well, thank you very much. It wasn't just me. I mean, it was mostly me, but thank you. It's very nice of you to say. That.
I'm just chopped liver. That's what I am. Right, I don't know which one's which. Could you give me a wave, John? Hello, John. Right, I'll come to you first of all. John, you are a property developer and a karate instructor. Just tell us your political orientation, first of all. I think you're Reform, am I right in saying?
Well, at this moment in time, I'm with Reform. Over the years, I've never been particularly politically motivated, but I've voted Conservative in the past. I've voted Labour in the past. But I'm looking for something more common sense based. So my leanings at the moment are towards Reform, yes.
And what is it about Reform that is speaking to you?
I think the light bulb moment was when I read the contract, the draft contract for the people, as they called it, rather than it being a manifesto. And it was based on what I considered as a business person to be absolute common sense. It wasn't full of things that didn't seem to make a lot of sense. And everything in politics these days tends to look like and sound like it doesn't make sense. And I think for many, many years, we've had this party, that party, bouncing backwards and forwards. And maybe it's time now for something that's more central, something that's different, and something that's based on common sense.
And what about you, Michael? What's influencing you in the way you're thinking, indeed the way you may vote?
I think what matters to me in this election, it's very simple. And it's easy. NHS, house building, the cost of living crisis, sewage and clean water, and let's get back to manufacturing in this country.
And I'm just trying to work out your political persuasion. I believe you were keen to try and vote for George Galloway's Workers' Party, but you've decided against that. And at the moment, you're leaning towards the Greens. Am I right in thinking that, especially with those sewage comments?
I am, as a Tesla-driving, tree-hugging vegetarian, of course I'm voting Green. In Crawley, That is a wasted vote because it should be voting tactically. But I think you have to vote for parties that genuinely promise hope, and that's the Greens.
Yeah, I'll put this point to both of you because both the Greens and Reform faced the same criticism earlier this week. I don't know if you saw, there was a report by the Institute for Fiscal Studies. They're a think tank that looked at what they were promising in their social contracts or their manifestos, and they said that both of them were poisoning the public debate because what they were offering was frankly unattainable and therefore breeding dissatisfaction and creating this tax arms race. What do you say to that, John?
Unattainable in what way? Cost-wise?
Yeah, just totally unfunded and therefore creating this kind of arms race between the dominant parties, Labour and the Conservatives, who were also then accused of basically avoiding trying to fund those claims. So what do you make of that, John, first of all?
Well, I think if I can use an analogy, I mean, at the end of the day, all political parties make promises. They all come up with a manifesto and we see time and time again, promise after promise, broken, things that they're going to target, things that they're going to try and achieve, which never seems to make it. And if I can use an analogy, people always vote habitually. And if we've got a new pizza shop in town, but everybody else likes to use the same other two pizza shops, but to not try something different is to not to know. And look, at the end of the day, I would feel that Labour are probably going to be quite successful in this next election. They're going to get there next Thursday. I think that's almost a given. But I think that not to try something different is not to know. And look, at the end of the day, if Reform were to be successful, maybe in 2029, and the public were to give them, or whoever they choose, that opportunity, they cannot be any worse than what we've had in the last 20 or 30 years.
Yep. And as someone who is right-wing, clearly, having voted Conservative in the past and now leaning towards Reform, are you happy with your vote contributing to possibly a supermajority for Labour?
Well, who are you referring to as being right-wing there, myself or
yes,
the Reform
sorry, I was
Party?
assuming, given your votes for Conservatives and Reform.
Well, yeah, I'm not particularly heavily right-wing. I believe in centralisation. I believe in people getting on together and everybody working in harmony. Integration is a good thing. But I think that Reform have got great ideas. Whether they can implement those ideas based on the contract with the people that they call it, that's a whole different ball of wax. We understand that they can make the same promises that everybody else can. And I'm not going to pretend that I think that Reform can work miracles. But at the end of the day, if people give them the opportunity, then they can show us whether they can or they can't do it.
We've got to let Michael have a final thought, our tree hugger in all of this. Anything else you want to add, especially in relation to those claims that, you know, what they're offering is unattainable?
We've heard this, and it's particularly a thing over the last 10 years. Oh, it's uncosted, it's not going to work. After the war, we were absolutely broke. We built millions of houses. We built the NHS. If we didn't spend so much money on bombs, we could afford this stuff.
There we go. OK, Michael Decker, John Dimberline, thank you both very much.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Indeed.
Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it. Just a quick, brief look at some other stories coming in on this Wednesday morning. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has walked free from court after pleading guilty to an espionage charge. He dropped. They dropped the 17 other charges against him. Mr. Assange admitted to his role in conspiracy to violate the Espionage Act and was sentenced to time already served in a British prison. The explanation of that felt like doing time, but there we go.
A former engineer who worked on the faulty Horizon IT system claims the Post Office tried to put words in his mouth when he attempted to disclose concerns he had about the software. Gareth Jenkins, pictured there, was with Fujitsu for his whole career and was regarded as a distinguished employee until he retired. He said that he is truly sorry for wrongful convictions.
What do you think of this? It's a portrait of Sir David Attenborough, and it's been unveiled by the Royal Society, painted by Jonathan Yeo, who also did the King's first official portrait at the coronation, or since the coronation. It was that red type picture, which was absolutely stunning. This marks the broadcaster and naturalist's 4 decades as a fellow of the Society.
And what a jolly good fellow he is too, I have to say.
the artist or the...
Oh, David Attenborough. No, I just think he's wonderful, but all the above. Yeah.
Wonderful. They're all jolly good fellows. Jolly good weather today, I believe, in McGivern.
Another good fellow.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, welcome back to your update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to be another hot and sunny one for many of us today. Cooler for some, it's not hot everywhere. For example, parts of Scotland, northern and northeast England seeing a lot of cloud first thing. Has some mistiness, continues to affect the east coast of England through much of the day, so it's going to be cooler here. Likewise, western Scotland, Northern Ireland, a sunnier day expected compared with Tuesday, but it's going to feel a bit cooler. Meanwhile, across the rest of the UK, certainly across central and southern parts, temperatures will rise rapidly through the morning. 31 Celsius, the afternoon hotspot somewhere in the southeast or central England. Mid to high 20s widely elsewhere. But as that heat builds across many parts of the UK, we could see some heavy showers developing, certainly over the Grampians, the far north of Scotland, perhaps one or two spots over the Pennines and the Welsh Mountains. Could see a heavy shower into the afternoon and early evening. Cloud returns to western areas. Northern Ireland seeing thickening cloud through the day and some outbreaks of rain, and that's the sign of a change on the way. Later Wednesday and into Thursday, we'll see breezier and cloudier weather push into Scotland, Northern Ireland, western England and Wales, and a band of rain moves in by dawn. That's going to turn heavy across the far north of Scotland, certainly across Orkney. Could see some heavy bursts or even some rumbles of thunder, but it's light rain elsewhere. Meanwhile, a very warm, muggy night expected across central and southeastern parts. Some early sunshine to come for the Midlands, eastern and southeast England. Temperatures again rising quickly through the morning. But during the morning, we'll see this area of cloud and light rain move through, and that's going to limit the increase in temperatures. And by the afternoon, 26 to 28 Celsius more likely in the southeast. Back towards average elsewhere, windy in the northwest with outbreaks of heavy rain.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, this is Victoria Eagle. Just worth waiting for. And she will be soaring into the studio for our next interview because she is a Great British Giveaway winner, and we'll tell you all about that, and she'll tell you her story and what she won and how you could be a winner too right after this.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
The mystery surrounding the disappearance of flight MH370 has perplexed the planet now for 10 years. But now all of a sudden researchers at Cardiff University have piped up and said, oh, we heard a beep. Aerospace engineer, founder of MH370search.com is Richard Godfrey. Richard, are we going to find this thing?
The new research is much more thorough and gone in much more detail. It is picking up acoustic waves under the water. It's not conclusive, but it's a good step forward.
Is this a cover-up job of epic proportions? Do you think something quite sinister happened to this plane? Because it is all very odd.
I think you're right. It is all very odd. It is, we have a lot of data, but we don't have the final analysis, and we won't until we actually find the wreckage. The Indian Ocean is a huge place, 77 million square kilometers. When we find the plane, we can recover the flight data recorder, the cockpit voice recorder. We can learn a lot more.
Do you think someone might have shot it down?
No, the plane flew until it ran out of fuel. The plane was perfectly in working order. There was an active pilot right until the end. So my only theory at the moment is the captain of the plane actually committed a hijack of his own plane. But until we find it, we won't be able to prove that.
We are potentially a step closer now to knowing and to one of the greatest mysteries of recent times anyway, finally being solved. There's aerospace engineer there, Richard Godfrey, thank you.
Britain's election channel, the People's Channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Oh, we're very excited here in studio. We have got a guest. We have got one of you in here, Victoria Eagle. There she is.
Hello.
How nice to see you, Victoria.
Hi.
And do you know why Victoria's smiling? Victoria's smiling because she's a winner. You won how much, Victoria?
£12,345.
That will do
And that's
very
not all
nicely.
you won. What else did you take home?
I won a pizza oven, a games console, a smart speaker and £500 shopping vouchers.
Not too
Get you,
shabby.
get you. Now, that was our last Great British giveaway, and the competition finishes this Friday. So we're talking to Victoria to see if you could be as lucky as her. And it's a nice bonus to get in your life, isn't it? I mean, it's not life-changing, but it certainly is very significant.
It was lovely. It's one of the, you never expect to win something like that. So when you do, I blocked the phone number to start with.
I bet that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Who's this caller ringing me? People don't take calls anymore, do they?
No. So it's only when I had a voicemail that I rang it back and I was told I won. So it was lovely. And we'd booked a holiday, but we hadn't paid for it yet. So this paid for it. So
And so what's the holiday going to entail and who are you going to take and how much of your money will you have left over? Or is it
We're going to Disney World in Florida with my children.
Now, how old are your kids?
Rosie's 16 and Miles is 12.
That's good. They'll enjoy that
But
tremendously.
it's me that loves Disney more, so they're going to be like rolling their eyes at Mum dancing around in Main Street. So yeah, but I'm more excited than them, definitely.
Oh, so that will fund your little trip to Disneyland. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, you live in Hertfordshire.
I do.
And do the neighbours know that you've won this and things?
No, but everybody else that I know, all my friends and my family and everyone, I told anyone that I knew that I'd won. And I've been fairly lucky with competitions in the past.
Have you?
Yeah, I won a £5,000 scratch card back a couple of years ago and then a trip to Disneyland Paris last year.
Yeah.
So I entered because I thought, I've been quite lucky. And, 3 times.
Wow, it's not some insider trading going on.
No,
That's great.
everyone just calls me I'm the person that loses their suitcase on an aeroplane, but I'm also the person that wins competitions. So it's kind of, I'm unlucky sometimes and lucky with this. So, yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. Now, listen, if that's whet your appetite and you think, I wish I could do a Victoria on this one, here's how you can.
It's the final week to see how you can win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, cash. Text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
And Victoria, she won that. She entered, she won. She's a winner, and she's just here today to tell you that you could be too. What is it about GB News that makes you a viewer?
It's just a little bit different to every other news channel. I got into news during COVID, but every other channel, it's just a lot of same.
Yeah.
So I have this on in the background all the time. It's on in the morning before I take the kids to school, and then when we go to bed, we watch just before we go to sleep, and that's when I entered the competition at that time.
And I believe your mother-in-law is a massive fan, so much so that you bought her a GB News mug, and she said what?
My aunt.
Your aunt?
Yeah, my husband's aunt is a very big fan, and we bought her a GB News mug for Christmas, and she said it was the best present she'd ever got.
Oh, my God.
So,
listen,
I think you're taking
you can have
super
you can
fan.
pour that out, and you can take that
I
home
will
with you.
take that GB News
it.
mug home for her. She will be made up. You have no idea.
And do you find in general that, you know, particularly the male presenters on GB News are perhaps just that bit better looking than most other channels?
You're
See?
all wonderful.
See?
But the women are more beautiful.
Ah, there you go. Some girls stick together. I think you're quite a big Eamonn fan, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Stop it. You're just
Absolutely.
saying.
Who isn't? Who isn't?
Who isn't? Quite, exactly.
Thank you very much. That's Victoria Eagles. She's from Hertfordshire, and she's a GB News competition winner, and she's going to be back in 45 minutes' time to tell you more about why she entered and what she won.
She's 12,000.
Victoria, thank you very much indeed.
£345 richer. That's what I was going to say. Right, up next, Paul Coit. He didn't win, but he is here
You
with
wouldn't watch
all
because
the
of him, though, would
latest
you? Paul Coit. No,
Not fair. Everyone loves
Let's
Coit.
just pretend you do after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M80 in North Lanarkshire, the outside lanes closed southbound after an accident between junctions 5 and 4 from the Lowood junction at Cumbernauld to the M73. There are queues from junction 6 at the Old Inns junction. In Staffordshire, the A460 is blocked by an accident off junction 1 of the M54, causing delays. The M25 from Hertfordshire into Essex is closed clockwise from junction 25 for the A10 to 27 for the M11. There are queues in patches from junction 23 for the A1 and 12 miles of anti-clockwise queues past the scene from junction 28 for the A12. On the M4 in Berkshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed eastbound after an accident between junction 6 and 5 near Slough, causing delays. In Somerset, the A371 is closed near Wincanton after an accident, and in Devon, the A38 is closed eastbound from Ivy Bridge to Rangerton Cross for repairs after a lorry caught fire yesterday evening, causing queues.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
You'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody
in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Talking about the Euros all morning. Paul's with us now. The England World Cup in the T20. England are still there in cricket.
Yeah.
What's the latest?
Well, the latest is, I'm sorry, this has really got my goat. This is ridiculous. So England have made it to the semi-finals of the T20 World Cup. They're already the holders. So it's been a bit of a rocky road with England. Ring a bell, does it, getting through qualifying? Sounds like other sports. But anyway, they've got through to the semi-final. We'll play India in the semi-final tomorrow. But this is they're holding the whole thing in the West Indies and in America as well. Rain is forecast in Guyana, where they play. But if it rains, it will then be abandoned and India will get to the final. I mean, it's madness. So this is the semi-final of a World Cup, but just because of rain, they will then abandon the game if there's rain. So there's absolutely no way of playing it the next day. They can't do it another time. They say, well, sorry, that's it. So
it's just
England,
not cricket.
You know what? It's just not cricket. It's an absolute char and disgrace. So it really isn't good enough. So rain is forecast in Guyana from 8 until 5. Play starts at 10:30. There's a minimum of 10 overs each. T20 is obviously 20 overs each side. But if they can't finish it, then because India finished better in the Super 8s, which is the little league that happened just before the semi-final, England will be out. How can you have a World Cup semi-final and then just because of rain, sorry, you're out? It's insane. But that's going to happen tomorrow if it rains.
That's what they plan. That's what they plan. We're less than a month away from the Olympics.
Yes.
And let's talk about Keely Hodgkinson's chances of winning the 800 metres.
Well, they're good. In fact, they're even better than they were this time last week. Now, at the US trials, now this is another thing which is strange when it comes to sport. The US trials, to get into the Olympic team, it's all on one race. So for the 800, now, Athing Mu is the American record holder at the 800 metres. Now, she's probably not as good as Keely Hodgkinson, but she's close. There she is. She's looking very upset. Now, the reason she's looking so upset is that she was in the 800 metres. She was expected to run, expected to win. She got spiked, so she got caught by someone else. Wasn't the drinks beforehand. This was actually from her shoe. Fell over and then got up, but although she'd lost a lot of time and also the others pulled away. Now, 800 metres is 2 laps, so it was a lot to pull back. She couldn't actually manage to get back, so therefore, although she's the best 800-metre runner in America, because she didn't win that race,
Was she deliberately
she's out.
spiked?
I don't know. It's like the old Mary Decker
thing
that happened with Zola Budd. Do you remember that?
I do.
Olympics. But it's a very strange one, but that's how they do it. They call it like the Hunger Games in America because it's so brutal. Whereas everywhere else, it's done on how well they've done. They'll have trials, but, you know, if you're a great runner, you get in to run for your country. Whereas that way, if you don't deliver on the day, that's it. So she's out.
Right. Well, England didn't deliver last night.
Did not deliver.
Well, you could say they did. They got the right result and gets them through to the next round. Yeah. So the fans. What was the reaction from the fans to the performance?
We went out in Croydon at the fan park yesterday and spoke to see what do you reckon they're going to say? Do you reckon we're going to hear fans going, well, we've qualified and I think we did a very solid job?
There's going to be a lot of moaning.
Eamonn?
I think the result is everything, and people will say, well, we've qualified, we've got one stage further. I mean, how the Scots would love to be able to say that, and they can't,
I know.
no matter what the performance was. But I think people would be justified in complaining about the performance.
I think so. I'm with Isabel. I haven't seen this either, but I don't think they would be happy. Let's see what they said last night.
Southgate does not know how to play these players. These are world-class players. We watch them every single week. They're absolutely world-class for their teams. You bring them together for the country and you get a performance like that, I'm sorry, not acceptable.
Not as good as I thought it was going to be, but, you
We've come out with a 0-0. We've come out with a draw. It's okay.
Not good enough at all. We need to play Cole Palmer, 2 defensive, Gareth Southgate. I don't think he's the man for the job. I'd have Mourinho in there, but yeah, just not enough.
England have just been pretty mid, I'd say, overall. Got to find something that works. Doesn't really look like a consistent team.
Interesting. There's
It's
a guy
interesting.
would have Mourinho in there.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I think
he'd
talk
be a
about
very
playing
good
defensive.
international manager.
Oh, maybe. But I think Gareth has reached the end of the road. Unless something incredible happens now, we're through to the knockouts, which is on Sunday. We don't know who it's going to be. So, I mean, this is the choice here. It's going to be out of the Netherlands. It's possibly Romania. I think it's Slovakia there's a chance of as well. But we'll find out today because the last group games are later today and then we'll find out how it all unravels. Gelsenkirchen, 5 o'clock on Sundays.
Where's that?
It's in Germany.
It's Germany. It's all in Germany.
Sounds a nice place.
You know what? I think I'd like to spend my summer in Gelsenkirchen.
And
Would you like to join me, Em?
We could go on a road trip.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
You know what? In
Who's driving?
In Lederhosen.
Oh my gosh! Honestly, I don't even want to imagine that.
Thank you very
thanks,
much,
Coity. Off you go with your lederhosen.
Oh, you can come with us. You can have
thank you.
lederhosen
I'll be
and join
fine.
us.
You can have your Gelsenkirchen or whatever it's called.
She'll
you have
come.
a lovely time, boys.
Thank you. Claire Muldoon and Lewis Oakley, they've got the papers right after this.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides.
As you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel. Britain's election channel.
Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
I've got a grade 3 astrocytoma brain tumour. Once I was diagnosed, I tried to do my claim with my insurance company and was rejected. They then also cancelled my life insurance and also cancelled my wife's policies as well.
And this is Zurich Insurance,
This
John.
is Zurich,
and their point was because you'd had some dizzy spells which you hadn't told them about.
Yeah.
They say dizzy spells equates to a
Well,
brain tumour, which there's no evidence to support that.
I was with King's College Hospital. They ignored them. King's College Hospital were the experts.
And you were expecting £25,000.
Yeah, that was a critical illness claim.
Critical illness, because you've got a critical illness.
Critical
Clearly,
illness,
it couldn't be more critical, could it?
No.
Michelle, you've got a lovely, poorly husband, and you're also worrying about paying the bills and what the future holds.
Yeah.
What impact is this having on you on a day-to-day basis?
I try not to think too much about the future because it does upset me. I'm kind of thinking when John does go, I'm left with a mortgage to pay and 2 young children.
How old are your kids?
5 and 3.
Right.
So it's incredibly tough.
And are you working?
I haven't worked since having the children.
Right.
That's a decision we made when we had children.
In the grand scheme of things, this amount of money is a drop in the ocean for a company like Zurich.
Yeah, because I think they could make all this go away.
I've read some of the statement. Zurich's statement. We're sorry to hear of the very difficult circumstances Mr. Rendler's family are experiencing. You're terminally ill, and they're calling that difficult circumstances.
The People's Channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tormini.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tormini.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 8:45. We've got the broadcaster and journalist Claire Muldoon back to go through the papers with the writer and podcaster Lewis Oakley. Welcome back to both of you.
Thank you.
Lewis, let's talk about the NHS having to fix ops botched overseas. This is inside The Sun today, as if we haven't got enough to deal with.
Yes, this is about people going abroad because it's obviously cheaper to get your work done over there and then coming back with problems over here that they want the NHS to fix for them. It's interesting, actually. I was discussing this story a few weeks ago with one of the security team here, and he was saying it's about people not doing the right amount of aftercare. You know, if you've gone and got your new bum fitted, jumping on a plane and high altitude is probably not the best thing to do straight away. So it is one of those things that opens up that debate about, well, is this the NHS's problem? Obviously, if you're dying or you're unwell, it is, as a British citizen, but that doesn't make it right.
Yeah. What do you think, Claire?
Well, essentially it's true, but also before all of the rise on turkey teeth, etc., there was an issue, there still is a very real issue of women having babies in the private sector because there is no neonatal care, nor is there any A&E available in private hospitals. So a lot of women who go into private hospitals to have babies sometimes end up with difficulties on the NHS as well. So the NHS...
from abroad?
No, not necessarily from abroad,
They were
but from this
trying to do
country.
it without, you know, putting a burden on the state.
It's the same doctors anyway, but if I were having children again, if I ever, and I would recommend this to my daughters as well, never have a child in a private hospital. Always just try and do it through the NHS. It's a lot simpler in terms of delivery and aftercare.
You know, in the last 20 years, we know what's happened to maternity.
I know, Isabel, I know, but the brunt does fall on the NHS. If anything goes wrong, the NHS is always there to pick up the pieces. And again, it's another bulge. It's another thing that they have to take care of. I mean, we've just learned today that junior doctors are striking. The NHS is on its knees.
I don't know where the line is here, though, because I was always told if you go private for something, it's then not simple to go back to the NHS. But clearly the story proves that, well, you can just flip between
Well, sometimes you don't go back with any lines if that's the plastic surgery that you've had.
There you go. Right, Chapel Down mulls sale to fund expansion of UK vineyards. And Chapel Down, I have to say, I mean, there are lots of other brands available, but I approve.
It's delicious.
Hard approve from me. Good, I'm glad you're with me, Claire. So it's Britain's biggest wine producer, Chapel Down.
It is.
And they're very good at it.
They are excellent at it. But I'll tell you something else, Isabel. Last week, or a couple of weeks ago, I was at a wine tasting by British Airways.
Right.
It was a superb affair. And they were championing not just English wines, but a lot of various different other ones. But the English wine market is really particular and very peculiar. And I was just saying to you in the green room there that it is really, really taking off. Moet and Hennessy, Tattinger have all bought up the vineyards in Hampshire and Kent because of Le Terroir, which is very, very similar to the terrain in France in the Champagne region, that we can now grow Chardonnay grapes and Pinot Noir grapes very successfully to make these delicious sparkling wines.
Yeah, and not just that, we were tasting some Sauvignon Blanc last week, and apparently it's absolutely brilliant when it comes from Essex. The grape does really well in Essex, so a lot of the vineyards
There was a Scottish wine about 20 years ago, and it was called Care No More. And for other people who didn't know what Care No More was, they just read the label. But it tasted, do you know what it tasted of? Wet leaves. And that's just the terroir in Glasgow in Scotland. Isn't that really funny?
Why
would you?
Want to drink something that tastes of wet leaves?
Well, I didn't know that at the time,
do you know,
did I?
It makes me laugh because the French have become connoisseurs of tea. And here we are, speaking of wet leaves, and here we are becoming the wine capital of the world.
I
not
think
to
it's
overdo
fantastic.
it, but there's a bit of a role reversal.
We should have had some today to celebrate your Trick Award.
Well, I wouldn't say no to that.
Clearly, we've picked the wrong time to stop stop drinking. But I'm glad we've got something to export now that people want to buy.
Things are so fickle. We're looking here at the Reform Party, and their polling is dropping by 2-3 percentage points.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting one. It does seem like the comments around Russia and Ukraine have done a bit of damage to Reform there. But, I mean, that was always going to happen. They were going to find something to throw at them eventually that would damage their polling. The polls always narrow the closer you get to the general election. So I don't think this is the biggest shock in the world. But I've still got a feeling there are so many shy Reform voters out there. I think that we'll still have a few surprises on election results day.
What is it about Reform, do you think, that people are, you know, wanting to get out of? Do you think it's a vote against the Conservatives? Do you think people will vote?
I think it's a vote for straight talking.
Yeah.
Most of the time. I mean, there's less, you know, pussyfooting about, and it's just they say it as it is, and a lot of people quite like that.
Yeah, no, I
they
go
don't
along with
have
that.
a damaged record, I guess, in the same way the Tories have. It's like the Tories have promised this, but haven't been able to deliver over 14 years. So actually, they sort of start with a bit of a clean slate. And also, I think probably in a wider conversation is around these parties, Labour and Conservatives. What do they really mean after all of these decades and hundreds of years? But actually, a new party that comes in that knows who it is, they've still got the founders there. It is appealing to some people, I guess.
Now, Claire, you've chosen a story in the Times which has me honestly just tearing my hair out.
I know.
An Italian court, according to the Times, has acquitted a man who was accused of sexually assaulting an airline attendant because she was too slow to bat him away.
Again.
It took her more than 30 seconds.
Yes, yes. You know, you can imagine
really
the
enjoying
state
it, then.
of this. You know, again, it's down to women to complain. It's nothing about men rectifying their behaviour. That's the thing that gets me. Do you know what the irony is? This happened at Malpensa Airport, or in Malpensa. Malpensa is the Italian word for bad thought or headache. Well, there was clearly a lot of bad thoughts going on in that Mioli's head in order for him to have done something as atrocious as this.
And in the
but then the court to almost admonish him and say, well, look, don't worry, you didn't actually do anything. You didn't do anything, sir, because she didn't complain quick enough.
Well, they've got a female leader now in Maloney. Maybe it's time for the law to be changed. And
well, it was a load of baloney before, so let's hope Maloney can just get it together and let's do it.
Lewis, 40% without basic savings level for bills. No idea what that means. 40% of people do not have enough savings to last 3 months.
Yeah, this is worrying. And 35% have got less than £500 in savings. And you look at why people are so nervous and worried these days. It's because one small bill out of nowhere could completely deplete their savings. So people are more worried than ever. And even, I'm sorry, but even if you've got savings, you're just terrified that the taxman's going to come after you, or people are talking now with a new Labour government, they're going to come after people with savings. So I feel like you're doomed either way. But I think, you know, a lot of anxiety if you're there with less than 3 months of savings. Well, what am I going to do if anything happens?
I don't think
there are these things which the government has introduced and very slyly called retrospective tax.
Yes.
Where they look back and they go back over 10 years of what you have. So it doesn't really matter what you've saved. They can take what they want.
Yeah.
I think that's the big worry at the moment. I'm dealing with tax at the moment. It's the first time I'm going to be doing a tax return. Honestly, it's just terrifying because you just think, if I declared this, if I ticked that form wrong... It's very
complicated.
You make one mistake and they'll come after everything.
Yeah.
But that's why I pay for someone to do that. And then I resent the fact that I'm actually paying, you know, an extra cost for that. And, you know, maybe that shouldn't be the case. But the tax situation in this country is absolutely appalling. People really just don't understand the extent of it.
Yeah.
You know, things like value-added tax. What's that about? Stamp duty. What's that about? It just goes on and on and on. They get you every way.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Let us know your thoughts on tax and all the things we've been discussing in the programme throughout the
So we'll tax you on whatever paltry amount you were paid today. We're going to make sure we're getting tax back on that as well. Have a good day, Claire.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you.
Thank you, panel.
Thank you,
Here's Aidan McGibbon with your forecast. It's going to be a scorcher.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, welcome back to your update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to be another hot and sunny one for many of us today. Cooler for some, it's not hot everywhere. For example, parts of Scotland Northern and northeast England seeing a lot of cloud first thing. Has some mistiness, continues to affect the east coast of England through much of the day, so it's going to be cooler here. Likewise, Western Scotland, Northern Ireland, a sunnier day expected compared with Tuesday, but it's going to feel a bit cooler. Meanwhile, across the rest of the UK, certainly across central and southern parts, temperatures will rise rapidly through the morning. 31 Celsius, the afternoon hotspot somewhere in the southeast or central England. Mid to high 20s widely elsewhere, but as that heat builds across many parts of the UK, we could see some heavy showers developing, certainly over the Grampians, the far north of Scotland, perhaps one or two spots over the Pennines and the Welsh Mountains could see a heavy shower into the afternoon and early evening. Cloud returns to western areas. Northern Ireland seeing thickening cloud through the day and some outbreaks of rain, and that's the sign of a change on the way. Later Wednesday and into Thursday, we'll see breezier and cloudier weather push into Scotland, Northern Ireland, Western England and Wales, and a band of rain moves in by dawn. That's going to turn heavy across the far north of Scotland, certainly across Orkney. Could be some heavy bursts or even some rumbles of thunder, but it's light rain elsewhere. Meanwhile, a very warm, muggy night expected across central and southeastern parts. Some early sunshine to come for the Midlands, eastern and southeast England. Temperatures again rising quickly through the morning. But during the morning, we'll see this area of cloud and light rain move through, and that's going to limit the increase in temperatures. And by the afternoon, 26 to 28 Celsius more likely in the southeast. Back towards average elsewhere, windy in the northwest with outbreaks of heavy rain.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2 or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M80 in North Lanarkshire, the outside lanes closed southbound after an accident between junctions 5 and 4 from Cumbernauld to the M73 with queues from junction 6A at Castle Carey. The M25 from Hertfordshire into Essex is closed clockwise from junction 25 for the A10 to 27 for the M11 after an accident. There are queues from junction 22 near St Albans, 12 miles of anti-clockwise queues from junction 28 for the A12. On the M4 in Berkshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed eastbound after an accident between junction 6 and 5 near Slough. There are queues from junction 7. In Somerset, there are long delays on approaches to Glastonbury. A couple of problems in Devon. The A380 is closed southbound along King's Ash Road in Paynton after an accident causing queues, and the A38 is closed eastbound from Ivy Bridge to Rangerton Cross for repairs after a lorry fire yesterday evening. The queues from the Deep Lane Junction at Plimpton. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
We'll be there.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Gamblegate takes over the election.
Yeah, the Cabinet Minister Alistair Jack admits to betting and profiting from election bets.
And now a Labour candidate's caught betting against himself winning.
Julian Assange walks free after pleading guilty to an espionage charge as he now travels to Australia.
The King and a reduced royal family hosted a lavish banquet for the Japanese Emperor as he began his state visit.
GB News Breakfast.
Yep, breakfast won at the Trick Awards yesterday. GB News claims 3 top gongs there.
Temperatures could reach 31 Celsius in a few spots today, but it won't be hot everywhere, and it all comes to an end tomorrow. I'll have the full forecast coming up very soon.
It's just, it was just gone 9 o'clock. Yes, it's a clock you can never tell where it's going to be, but it's 9 and 47 seconds. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast. So we did it. We brought another one home, guys. And it's all thanks to you at home for voting. Second year in a row now, best news programme, and some serious competition.
Yes, and some serious help we've got along the way. People like Cameron Walker. Don't feel we're excluding you from this as well, but all our royal stuff goes down so well.
It was a wonderful ceremony yesterday, and it was so lovely that we won 3 awards at GB News as well. It was incredible.
Well, it was lovely to have you there on our special day as well, so thanks for coming along.
So thank you if you voted for us, because that's what it was all about. It was about your vote, your preference, and your way of saying that you like what you get here on the news channel and you like the way we serve it up to you. So thank you very much.
And this is what we're serving up today. The Labour Party have now become embroiled in the Gamblegate scandal after suspending candidate Kevin Craig, who bet against himself in the election.
Now, this comes as a 5th politician becomes implicated for the Conservative Party in the election betting probe. The Tories have suspended Laura Saunders and Craig Williams so far.
Well, earlier we asked the Work and Pension Secretary Mel Stride what he made of it all.
Look, I think it was absolutely right that the party made internal inquiries and has now come to a very clear conclusion, which is that those candidates are suspended. They will not be supported by the Conservative Party during this general election. And if indeed in the course of time they or any others who are candidates are found to have broken the rules in relation to betting, then they will actually be removed from the Conservative Party. So I think the Prime Minister has been very, very clear. He's very angry about what has happened. I am deeply disappointed about a number of the things that have happened here as well, and that is why action is being taken.
We'll bring you the thoughts now of our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who is following Labour's campaign. And where are you, Catherine?
Yes, good morning, Eamonn and Isabel from the East Midlands. Yes, I'm with the Labour people today. They're wanting to talk about doctors ending the 8 a.m. scramble for GP appointments. But I think Sir Keir Starmer is going to find himself talking about Gamblegate as it's becoming known, because it's broadening out and out. And, you know, yesterday, Labour suspended Kevin Craig, who had been a Labour candidate, but is under investigation by the Gambling Commission because he apparently placed a bet against himself in the general election. He placed a bet that he was going to lose. And worth saying about him specifically, he is the CEO of a lobbying firm behind Responsible Gambling Week. You really couldn't make this up. He's also given £100,000 to the Labour Party. We understand that that money is going to be given to charity. So difficult questions for Labour too, although of course it's not really of the same scale or of the same order than that which is sort of engulfing the Conservative Party, because in his case it's not about sort of effectively insider trading. Now with the Conservatives we've got 2 suspended candidates, and it took the Prime Minister 2 weeks in the case of Craig Williams to suspend him. He was formerly a parliamentary private secretary to the Prime Minister, so worked incredibly closely with him, so that was clearly difficult for the Prime Minister, and a lot of criticism that Rishi Sunak took too long to deal with this. So there's the two candidates being suspended by the Conservatives, Conservative campaign director and Conservative data officer, also on leave of absences, and now a Conservative member of the Welsh Assembly, Russell George, being investigated. He has stepped back from his duties at the moment. And also the news that Conservative Cabinet Minister, Scottish Secretary Alistair Jack, has admitted to placing bets on the date of the general election, but has said very firmly that he didn't do anything wrong. He's not under investigation. He placed a bet back in April on a May election with no prior knowledge. But really, you know, this is cutting through to voters. It's the last thing that Rishi Sunak wants to be dealing with only just a week before the general election. And tonight, Sir Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak will go head to head in the last of the television debates. I expect this issue is going to feature prominently.
I'm sure you're right, Catherine. Thanks very much indeed. Well, let's get Labour's response to all of this. We've got the former Labour Party advisor, Mike Buckley, joining us now. Good morning to you, Mike. We actually know Kevin Craig on this programme. He's been on with us, reviewed the papers a number of times. He's been a bit silly here, and he's embroiling your party now in a scandal that you've been making a lot of political capital out of over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just make the point. I can't give you Labour's response because I'm an independent commentator. But as you say, there's a difference here between what the Labour candidate did and what the Conservative candidates did. The Conservative candidate, it is alleged, knew from Rishi Sunak when the date of the election would be, used that insider knowledge to make themselves lots of money, basically. So definitely something that we would all frown upon. The Labour candidate, in contrast, has just done something silly, put a bet on against his own candidacy, but he's, taken the consequences. And actually, I think the other big difference to make is that Rishi Sunak, as he does with so many things, has, flailed around, refused to act for 2 weeks now, finally got rid of his candidates, whereas Labour did it within a couple of hours.
Yes, but Kevin Craig is somebody who, a big donor to the party, CEO of a lobbying firm, and also heads up a responsible gambling week. And here he is admitting in his own statement that he is guilty of, well, stupidity.
I mean, he clearly has been guilty of stupidity, and he's admitted that, and Labour has acted, and he's no longer a Labour candidate. And indeed, the gentleman in question, he has apologised and admitted that he made a mistake and says that he'll just have to live with the consequences. And my understanding is that Labour have returned the money that he gave to them, back to him. Your journalist said that it had gone to charity, but what I read this morning was that it had gone back to him. But who knows? Anyway, the important point is that Labour have decided they don't want anything to do with it, and he's gone from the Labour Party. So their hands are clean.
We were talking a little bit earlier with another commentator who's saying it was a shame this was sucking so much oxygen out of the public debate this close to a general election. But another topic that seems to be consuming the Labour Party once again is their relationship with women. And it seems that the Shadow Education Secretary yesterday admitted that trans women will be allowed into women-only spaces. And that contributes to the concerns of people like J.K. Rowling, who say Labour simply can't be trusted on these issues.
Labour's been very clear that they will protect the rights of trans people, and for example, making it easier to transition if people want to do that. Although there will still be a 2-year cooling off period, which I think is probably important for the people in question, but certainly important for wider society as well. But Labour's also been very clear that they will protect women-only spaces.
Are those two things possibly mutually exclusive? How can you make it easier for somebody to transition? With that, as easy as to get a prescription is what Victoria Atkins has been saying. She said you're introducing self-ID by stealth, and then you'll have a situation where someone's decided that they're no longer the gender that they were born as, with a penis, entering into female-only spaces, not only talking about toilets, we're talking about prisons. This is exactly the situation in Scotland that caused the unravelling of the SNP and the downfall of Nicola Sturgeon.
Well, if somebody wants to make that transition, bear in mind this is a tiny, tiny proportion of the population. They still
so it doesn't matter.
Well, to a degree it does, but they still need to get medical approval. So that stage is still there. What's been removed is the need for spousal approval, and I think we can all recognise that, were we in that situation, we wouldn't want to be held to ransom by somebody else, even if it was our spouse. But then there is this 2-year cooling off period, which I think, so it's not verified and it's not finalised for 2 years, which is quite a long time, long enough for somebody to decide they want to change their mind. And they don't want to do that or live that way, after all. But I think more importantly, because this affects far more people, all women, Labour's been very clear that they will respect and protect women-only spaces. Now, I don't know the detail on that. Obviously, that will include domestic violence refuges, and it may well include, I'm sure it will include medical spaces, health spaces as well. But I don't know the detail on that. So that does need to be explained a little bit more, I think, to give people the confidence that Labour really does have this down.
OK, Mike, got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Mike Buckley, former Labour Party advisor there. Let's bring in our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, now, because the state visit in honour of Japan is well underway. Tell us more.
Yeah, it certainly is. So I hot-footed it following the Chick Awards to Buckingham Palace to have a sneak peek at the state banquet, Eamonn and Isabel. I got to smell the food. Unfortunately, I didn't get to eat it.
It was quite the menu.
It was poached Scottish langoustines for starters, with a nest of cucumber, basil mousse, baked fillet of Cornish turbot, ice cream bomb with the peach sorbet, very summery indeed.
Yummy.
All the flowers being donated to local charities today, which were from the Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle Gardens too. But I thought what was really interesting was the table setting of Sir Keir Starmer next to the King's principal private secretary. He's the guy who's in charge of keeping an open line of communication between the King and his government. Clearly, we're very close to a general election. This state visit not meant to be political. Buckingham Palace officials insisting it's not political, but I thought it was very interesting placement of
and they're not on the
secretary.
top table either, were they, the politicians?
No politician was on the top table. And
where was the Prime Minister? Where was he?
He was pretty equal spacing to Sir Keir Starmer, close to the King's table, but kind of equal distance away from it. We also had a new family order, the King's family order, which the Queen was wearing on her dress. It's a traditional badge. Every monarch personally bestows it to female members of the royal family. So it's a new one for King Charles this year as well. So it looks like a pretty happy event, and we got to listen to the speeches as well. There are references in the King's to, there we go, there's the family order there. References to Pokemon and Hello Kitty as well. Of course, those Japanese staples, which got a few laughs, I think, in the ballroom of Buckingham Palace.
A slimmed-down team, though. Princess Anne's still in hospital, and we've spotted her husband, Tim Lawrence, and her daughter, Zara Phillips, both going to visit the Princess Royal in hospital. Any news on how she's doing?
Well, we understand she spent a third night in hospital. She's awake, she's conscious, but she doesn't remember what actually happened. So it's only the medical staff who are saying her injuries are consistent with being kicked or head-butted by a horse. So we'll have to, of course, wait and see. But there's a huge evidence, of course, as well as the Princess of Wales. Usually after the state banquet, on the front pages of every paper, we'd have a picture of the Princess of Wales.
I do miss
Nonetheless, we don't have it.
I do miss it. Yeah, we do miss you to the Princess of Wales. I'm sure she's missing it as well.
I'm sure
she'll
be
add
back,
that
though.
star quality. But anyway, it's still fabulous to see all the pomp and pageantry. Any other royal goodies to look forward to coming up? Because obviously the Princess Royals had to cancel her trip to Canada, which was due tomorrow, I think.
Yes, she was going to fly out
what
tomorrow.
What else is in the diary looking ahead? Because obviously it's election time, it's a bit quieter.
It is election time, but we do have Holyrood Week next week.
Oh, right.
So the Royals are going up to Edinburgh for the traditional week they spend in Edinburgh. There'll be the traditional ceremony of the Keys. There's a huge ceremony in St Giles Cathedral as well, which most royals are expected to attend. We're not sure about the Princess of Wales yet, but it's getting very close to the summer, the traditional summer break where they all go up to Balmoral Castle. It's the first summer, actually, where members of the public are going to be able to see inside the castle, but ahead of King Charles arriving. But of course, it's the general election next week. The King will have to be back in London, cut his time in Scotland short to appoint his new Prime Minister, whoever that may be.
Gosh, they never get a straight stay up in Balmoral.
No.
It's always fraught with some sort of trip back down, whatever that might be, whether it's, the loss of the Queen.
I know.
But there's always something going on, or two Prime Ministers. We had Liz Truss going up there as well.
We certainly did, and of course the King is still having cancer treatment, so it's all about keeping an eye on his medical situation as well, whether he's well enough to travel back down and travel back up again. The line is, I think he will be, but of course you can appoint a Prime Minister anywhere, as we saw with the late Queen and Liz Truss at Balmoral.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Cameron. Appreciate the roundup. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. We'll take a break there, and still to come, we're going to be joined in the studio by our last and latest Great British Giveaway winner. She's a happy bunny.
She is.
Keep it here.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you.
And we won't ever forget that. Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
Now more than ever, it's important to hear
all sides as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's election channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Almost half of those seeking to have an affair are happier with their job than with their primary relationship. But what exactly does a cheater do for a living?
Well, medical assistants and nurses, surprisingly, top the lists of professions for female cheaters. And it's jobs in IT or tech for male cheaters, which I think is less of a surprise.
No.
This is all according to a survey by the dating site Ashley Madison.
OK, so why do people cheat? To answer this, we're joined now by broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. Good morning, Lucy.
Morning, Lucy.
So, is it OK of me to say naughty nurses in this day and age? Am I going to get cancelled for that?
You're out.
Yeah, I'm out.
Been
Gone.
cancelled.
See ya.
There's the door.
There we
But
go.
yes, you're talking about the caring professions, and I think it's very appropriate.
surprised by that.
That women, well, because they're very nurturing, very loving, very giving, whereas the males who are in tech and IT, very strategic.
Is there a link between high-pressure jobs, maybe nurses infamously, you know, they're working long hours, underpaid, stressed out? Is there a link between jobs of that nature and cheating, maybe as a relief?
Absolutely. Is it just about sex, or is it about emotional connection? Is it about emotional validation? And increasingly, people are discovering that their primary relationship is just not a place where they feel safe.
This survey found that personality didn't actually come into it that much. It was about half and half if you're an introvert or an extrovert that you'd be likely to have an affair.
I think that's right. And I think that just speaks to the fact that all people want to have a good emotional connection. So it doesn't matter whether you're really social or whether you're someone who has to recharge your batteries in private time, that actually we only ever want three things in life. We want to feel safe, we want to feel loved, but we also want to feel heard. And in increasingly a number of marriages and long-term relationships, we get into grooves, we get into ruts, and we stop hearing our partner, we stop listening to them, and they stop listening to us.
The People's Channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey. And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey. And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We want to introduce you to a new member of the GB News Breakfast family, and that is this lady, Victoria Eagle, who joins us today. And Victoria, you are special to us because you won our Great British Giveaway last time round.
I did.
Yeah, and well done to you.
Thank you.
What did that involve?
We were watching Patrick Christie's at night, and I've been fairly lucky with competitions in the past, so I thought, oh, I'll just enter. My husband was like, oh, you might as well. So I just text win, as you do, and then forgot about it.
And there's a funny story, because we were trying to contact you to say, by the way, you've just won £12,345 plus a pizza oven, blah, 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 all these other goodies, and you were ignoring our calls.
Yeah, I must have had 3 or 4 phone calls from this number, and I don't answer phone numbers that I don't know, so I blocked it. And it's only because I had a message left on my voicemail saying, "Hi, it's Jay from GB News." And I thought, why would GB News be ringing me other than the competition? That I rang it back, unblocked the number and found out that I won.
Fantastic. And did you just enter
believe
the
it?
once?
I couldn't believe it, yeah.
Yeah.
I did the text where you enter once and then it says if you text again and you get... So I think it was like 3 entries that I did on my phone. But, yeah.
Wow, that was well worth it. And what are you going to spend all that money on?
Well, I'm taking the children and my husband to Disneyland, to Disney World, Florida, in August, and we'd booked it, but we hadn't paid for it yet. So
and that's not cheap, is it, as a
no,
holiday?
it really isn't.
So that's taken a weight off you?
That's taken the pressure off, and my business didn't, or hasn't recovered fully from COVID, so it's just helped us out a little bit, which was just
And what is
a
your
relief.
business?
I sell greetings cards and birthday invitations and wedding invitations.
And
from
do you
home.
design these as well?
I do. I'm everything. I'm customer service, design team, post team. I'm a one-man band. I do it all.
And you do all of that with the backdrop being GB News?
Absolutely. It's on in the background all day long. I don't know about you, but I don't like no sound in the house, so to have something on in the background, and it is GB News in the background.
But you're not the biggest GB News fan that you've ever encountered, because within your family, you have a super fan.
I have my husband's aunt, who is an absolute super fan. We bought her a mug for Christmas, and it was the best present.
What, the GB News mug?
And it was the best present that she'd ever got.
good.
I'd actually made her a birthday card with Nana Akua on the front. I actually created the birthday card.
Oh, God bless her.
Well, you won the last competition. The present one ends on Friday.
Yes.
And if you're going to enter, this is what you have to do.
It's the final week to see how you could win big this summer. First, there's a totally tax-free £15,000 in cash to make your summer spectacular. Spend that extra cash however you like. You'll also win a brand new iPhone, Apple AirPods, and if that wasn't enough, a £500 voucher to spend at your favourite UK attraction. You have to hurry, as lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats, and £15,000 cash, text WIN to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can also enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, enter, and it could be you. You two could be like Victoria Eagle. Victoria, welcome to the GB News family.
Thank you.
And could I now just introduce you to Andrew and Ellie today, who are doing the next show that follows.
Hello.
Yeah.
Morning.
Hello.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Again.
We're still on
2
cloud
years in
nine,
a row.
to be honest.
You should be.
Yeah, well,
Richly
Ellie's
deserved.
very much part of that team
Absolutely.
as well. So
Well done.
I think the thing is, Andrew, when you look at the competition that you're up against, you know, all the other channels, ITV Breakfast, BBC 6 o'clock News, who else was there?
BBC Breakfast.
BBC Breakfast as well.
Britain, yeah.
It's that in itself is a great compliment to do that.
Well done.
Thank
It's
you.
a public vote as well, so it really matters to us.
The public that counts.
Yeah.
So what have you got? What do you do that doesn't make you a competition winner? That doesn't
Andrew,
put
that's
you
a
on our
question for
left.
you, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
You could win an
Next
award
year.
this morning, though. It's going to be,
Yeah,
I think it could be a fiery first half an hour.
We've got interesting first time on this programme, possibly on the station. Alistair Campbell is coming into the studio. He was, of course, Tony Blair's very pugnacious communications chief. He was there from the beginning of New Labour. He was there till about 2003. He's going to be talking about elections. He's talking about his books as well, because he's written a book to try and engage more young people in politics, so he'll have strong views on voting at 16. And I'm sure he and I will not agree on very much, because we never have done before, but we go back a long way.
Yeah, you're sparring partners, aren't you?
Yeah,
So this could be a really interesting watch, the first half an hour of our programme.
Yeah.
And then later on, we're going to be talking about England's performance last night. It was like watching paint dry, wasn't it?
Oh,
I think I could have actually played better.
Wouldn't
That's
watching
saying
paint dry be more interesting?
Perhaps.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
I have a confession.
I mean, I agree with you. I think if you were the manager or if you were a player, you actually think you could have something more inventive in your head.
Yeah, so Gareth Southgate was actually being booed yesterday by the fans.
I think he's in trouble.
Yeah, I think he could be in trouble.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about that. Jay Slater, the latest on the missing team in Tenerife, 10 days.
Now. It's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, we're talking to a journalist who's very close to the family. We're also going to be doing a wrap-up on this new Celine Dion documentary. She's suffering with stiff person syndrome. She's had it for 17 years.
And she was self-medicating Valium and nearly killed herself.
I'd
I love Celine Dion.
I'd never even
She's
heard heard of it, this stiff person
Valium?
syndrome.
Oh.
No, stiff person syndrome.
I was going to say, it could change your life, Andrew.
Might have changed it. Might have even tried Valium at one point in my life.
OK, guys.
Good stuff.
We've got to
Thanks,
say hello
guys.
and goodbye to you. Life-changing, the way Victoria Eagle's life changed through entering the Great British Giveaway. So from Victoria, from Isabel and myself, goodbye to you. We'll see you in the morning. Have yourselves a good day. Andrew and Ellie next.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, welcome back to your update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to be another hot and sunny one for many of us today. Cooler for some, it's not hot everywhere. For example, parts of Scotland, northern and northeast England seeing a lot of cloud first thing. Has mistiness, continues to affect the east coast of England through much of the day, so it's going to be cooler here. Likewise, western Scotland, Northern Ireland, a sunnier day expected compared with Tuesday, but it's going to feel a bit cooler. Meanwhile, across the rest of the UK, certainly across central and southern parts, temperatures will rise rapidly through the morning. 31 Celsius, the afternoon hotspot somewhere in the southeast or central England. Mid to high 20s widely elsewhere, but as that heat builds across many parts of the UK, we could see some heavy showers developing, certainly over the Grampians, the far north of Scotland, perhaps one or two spots over the Pennines and the Welsh Mountains could see a heavy shower into the afternoon and early evening. Cloud returns to western areas. Northern Ireland seeing thickening cloud through the day and some outbreaks of rain, and that's the sign of a change on the way. Later Wednesday and into Thursday, we'll see breezier and cloudier weather push into Scotland, Northern Ireland, Western England and Wales, and a band of rain moves in by dawn. That's going to turn heavy across the far north of Scotland, certainly across Orkney. Could see some heavy bursts or even some rumbles of thunder, but it's light rain elsewhere. Meanwhile, a very warm, muggy night expected across central and southeastern parts. Some early sunshine to come for the Midlands, eastern and southeast England. Temperatures again rising quickly through the morning. But during the morning, we'll see this area of cloud and light rain move through, and that's going to limit the increase in temperatures. And by the afternoon, 26 to 28 Celsius more likely in the southeast. Back towards average elsewhere, windy in the northwest with outbreaks of heavy rain.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M80 in North Lanarkshire, the outside lanes closed southbound after an accident between junctions 5 and 4 from Cumberland to the M73 with queues from junction 6A at Castle Carey. In Leicestershire, the A607 is closed into Leicester along Falgrave Gate after an accident. The M25 from Hertfordshire into Essex is closed clockwise from junction 25 for the A10 to 27 for the M11 after an accident. There are long delays with queues back beyond junction 23 for the A1, and anti-clockwise there are 10 miles of queues past the scene from just after junction 28 for the A12. On the M5 near Bristol, 2 lanes are closed southbound after an accident between junctions 18 and 19 from the M49 to Portishead causing queues. In Somerset, there are long delays on approaches to Glastonbury, and in Devon, the A38 is closed eastbound from Ivy Bridge to Drangerton Cross for repairs after a lorry caught fire with queues from Plimpton. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Recent polling suggests dentistry has become the hardest NHS service for patients to access, within NHS treatments still 15% lower than pre-pandemic levels. So a YouGov survey reveals that more than 70% of Brits describe seeing the dentist as difficult, compared with 64% for GPs and 42% for A&E services. One British man, get this, he even took to flying 10,000 miles for dental care, saying the extra time and money spent was far less hassle than trying to get an appointment on the NHS. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs. And a shocking 1/5 of UK adults have also admitted to trying DIY dentistry, including the old trick of tying string around a wobbly tooth and slamming it in the door so it comes out. So should people be more careful when taking their teeth into their own hands?
That is one of the problems. Obviously, population growth makes it much more difficult for people to access NHS services, but they need to then catch up on the other side with dental services and increase the amount of dentists and access to dentistry, and especially NHS dentistry, obviously.
What's the cut-off age for free dentistry on the NHS?
So it is 18 years old, but there are exemptions around maternity, pregnancy. There's some free care around pregnancy.
We saw some data a few weeks back about the number one cause for child admission into A&E is tooth decay. I mean, that was shocking when I read it.
It's really bad, and what happens is people, kids with multiple decayed teeth, they basically have to be put under general anaesthetic, and then all those rotted teeth have to be extracted under general anaesthetic. Like, if those baby teeth start going crooked, then the adult teeth start going crooked as well.
Right.
So it is important to look after the baby teeth. It's really important. I think they should make it more central to their policies, definitely.
The People's Channel.
Morning, 9:30 on Wednesday, the 26th of June, live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Ellie Costello, who's in for Bev Turner.
Election betting scandal. 5 Tories are now being investigated and a Labour candidate has been suspended. We'll have the latest.
The doctor will see you now. Find out how Labour plan to end the 8 a.m. scramble for GP appointments across Britain.
Kemi Badenoch bites back. The Equalities Minister calls the actor David Tennant a rich, lefty, white male celeb after he said, "I just wish her to shut up," over her views on women's rights.
And the 3 Lions, they're not exactly roaring, are they? England disappoint again last night in the Euros, but we still managed to top the group after a stalemate with Slovenia.
And your old sparring partner, Alistair Campbell, is going to join us in the studio shortly. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I think it's Alistair Campbell's first time on GB News. He, of course, worked for Tony Blair very closely in New Labour and then in Number 10. So he'll have a lot to say on lots of things, I'm quite sure.
Yes, you won't want to miss that. But before we get into anything else, let's get some news now with Tatiana Sanchez.
Andrew, Ellie, thank you very much. The top stories this morning. The election betting row is deepening after a cabinet minister revealed he'd also gambled on the date of the vote. Scotland Secretary Alistair Jack denies having broken any rules but admits to placing 3 bets. He insists he had no inside knowledge of when the election would take place, despite previously revealing that he'd made more than £2,000 from the bet. He later dismissed the claim as a joke. Mr Jack becomes the 7th person to become embroiled in the scandal, with just a week until voters head to the polls. In other news, Julian Assange has walked free from a US court after pleading guilty, ending a years-long legal battle. The 52-year-old WikiLeaks founder arrived on a remote island in the Pacific yesterday, where his long-running campaign to avoid extradition formally ended. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says he's pleased he's on his way to reunite with his family at home. Assange left the UK yesterday morning after more than 1,900 days at Belmarsh Prison. He's due to land in Australia shortly. His sentence is likely to be roughly the equivalent of the time he's already served, meaning he will remain free. And NHS leaders are warning of major disruption as a result of the heatwave and the junior doctors' strike. Yellow heat health alerts are in place for many parts of the country and will end at 5 p.m. tomorrow, just as junior doctors across the country walk off the job over pay and working conditions. It'll be the 11th walkout by junior doctors from the British Medical Association in England. For the latest stories, sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's back to Andrew and Ellie.
Good morning, with you here on Britain's Newsroom. Alistair Campbell joining me in the studio very shortly. You will know who he is. He was Tony Blair's right-hand man in opposition and in Number 10 for many years. He's written two interesting books which are trying to engage young people in the political process. So he's presumably going to have very strong views on whether we should get the vote for at the age of 16. I'm also going to be talking to him about the conduct of the general election, whether it is the conduct of politicians which is most important. What are the big issues, and he'll be joining me very shortly in the studio, and he might even have his books with him. And in fact, he's arriving in the studio very shortly. We've known each other, I would think, probably for, God, I hate to say this, 30 years. And I don't think we've knowingly agreed on anything in those 30 years, except the point of lively debate. And here he is, Alistair Campbell, in the studio. You've got the right colours on, Alistair.
I know, it's
brand new, fabulous new.
No, it's to match the colour of my book.
Oh, OK.
Alistair Campbell told you. Do you know why the cover of my book is pink?
Go on.
You should know this, Paul. It's the only colour that's never been owned by a political party.
That's a very good point.
There you go.
And yet some Tories are using pink in their election.
Because they don't want to use blue.
They don't use blue.
Yeah.
Before we talk about your books, and we will give you a proper hearing on your books, Alistair, when you were working for Blair and we had election campaigns, I used to go from one press conference to another. Labour, Lib Dem, Tory, 5 days a week. It meant the politicians were subjected to real scrutiny. That's gone now. We get occasionally a politician will take 6 questions, but you can go days without being subjected to that scrutiny. Do you think that's something that the public are being denied, in a sense? Because we ask the questions on their behalf.
I mean, I understand why the press conference thing has sort of faded away a bit, because 24 News means that the politicians are doing much more access through television than they used to. But I do think this campaign has lacked really intense grilling. I hope the TV debate tonight will be better than those so far. I think with Michelle